Chapter 586. Tian Hun, an immeasurable Star-Lord, were in the midst of a fierce battle. Although he had already noticed Yang Tian's unusual actions, he did not make a move to stop it. To Tian Hun, the most important thing now was to deal with immeasurable Star-Lord. As long as he got rid of this eyesore, Yang Tian would be at his mercy. The World Tree Seed was very important to Tian Hun. Legend had it that the World Tree possessed powerful life energy. If one could absorb this life energy, they would have an endless lifespan. Back then, Tian Hun had formulated a precise plan to stir up conflict between the Music Boundary Starfield and Superstar Divinity Temple, successfully destroying the Music Boundary Starfield. However, he did not expect that the successor of the Music Boundary Starfield would rather destroy the World Tree than let it fall into the hands of outsiders. Just as Tian Hun thought that his efforts were in vain, he learned that the World Tree had left behind a seed before it was destroyed. It had to be said that Tian Hun was an extremely patient person. If it were anyone else, they might have long given up after such a long time. Immeasurable Star-Lord naturally also saw the situation on Yang Tian's side. He did not understand Yang Tian's actions. Could it be that after transforming into a star beast, he could defeat Tian Hun? What else could he do but escape now? As long as Yang Tian was willing to leave, Immeasurable Star-Lord would create an opportunity for him, even if he had to risk his life. Immeasurable Star-Lord was not Yang Tian, so he naturally could not understand Yang Tian's concerns. To Yang Tian, a person living in this world could not only care about themselves, but also about their loved ones. Little Blue Dragon did not expect Yang Tian to actually do this. When it saw Yang Tian devouring more than a dozen cells that contained powerful energy, its eyes widened in shock. Yang Tian had also taken out these cells for it to see. Until now, it and Yang Tian still had not figured out how to extract pure energy from these cells. The strange program was still calculating, designing a rune array to extract the energy from these cells for Yang Tian. However, Yang Tian had actually directly swallowed them into his stomach. Little Blue Dragon knew that Yang Tian was going all out. Otherwise, Yang Tian would never have done such a reckless thing. In order to prevent Yang Tian from being disturbed, the Little Blue Dragon immediately transformed into a giant dragon that was twice the size of Yang Tian's current body. It circled around and surrounded Yang Tian. Roar! The moment this powerful cell body entered his body, it overflowed with powerful energy. The energy attacked Yang Tian's dragon body, causing Yang Tian to open his mouth and roar. Although the energy was enormous, Yang Tian could clearly feel that the rate at which these cells released energy was not as fast as that of beast cores. This made Yang Tian feel relieved. He was already prepared, so he didn't swallow all the cells at once. This rate of energy release was still unable to satisfy Yang Tian's requirements. At this rate, he didn't know how long it would take for him to ascend to the great astral god realm. What Yang Tian needed now was speed. To him, the battle between the immeasurable Star-Lord and Tian Hun was like buying time for him. Thus, Yang Tian opened his mouth again and sucked the remaining red cells into his mouth and swallowed them into his stomach 3 minutes later. Roar! Yang Tian, who had transformed into a dragon, suddenly opened his mouth and let out a roar. This was a venting sound because at this moment, Yang Tian was in too much pain. Only 1/3 of the huge amount of energy entered his energy world, and the remaining 2/3 could only be endured by his body. Fortunately, after transforming into a dragon, his body's cells had changed, and his physique had become much stronger. If he still had a human body, his body would have exploded from this energy. When he swallowed these cells, Yang Tian hoped that he could be transformed by these cells and ascend from the great astral lord realm to the great astral god realm. This way, he would at least have the strength to fight against Tian Hun. At that time, it wouldn't be impossible for him and the immeasurable Star-Lord to defeat Tian Hun together. However, after swallowing these cells, it seemed to be different from what Yang Tian had expected. These cell bodies simply released energy and did not modify the cells in his body. Yang Tian had just become a great astral lord, and his body hadn't fully adapted yet. In other words, Yang Tian's body cells were still in a cellular state. The demand for energy wasn't particularly high. If the energy couldn't be released, the consequences would be very serious. Yang Tian was in so much pain that he could no longer control his body. He kept rolling around in the air as he howled in pain. Although it was painful, the origin realm in Yang Tian's body was slowly expanding. With the replenishment of energy, it expanded very smoothly. However, this speed wasn't fast enough. While enduring the physical pain, Yang Tian used his mental power to guide more energy into the origin realm. The energy overflowing from the cells was red. The energy that entered Yang Tian's origin realm was also red. However, as soon as it entered the origin realm, the energy was assimilated by the origin realm and became invisible. However, at this moment, apart from Yang Tian's power world, his body cells were also absorbing the red energy. After absorbing a large amount of this energy, Yang Tian's enormous dragon body gradually turned red, from blue to red. Even his scales became blood red, making him look like a blood dragon. At the same time, powerful energy waves spread out from Yang Tian's body. This energy aura had already surpassed the great astral lord level. Also, it was clearly becoming stronger. Although Yang Tian was becoming stronger at an extremely fast speed, the little blue dragon's eyes were still full of worry. In the distance, the immeasurable Star Lord and Tian Hun naturally noticed the changes on Yang Tian's side. It was a pleasant surprise for the immeasurable Star Lord. This was because as long as Yang Tian became stronger, his chances of survival would be much higher. And for Tian Hun, this was obviously not a good thing. Boom, there was a loud noise. Tian Hun used his most powerful palm strike and hit the immeasurable Star Lord. In this short period of time, the immeasurable Star Lord's body was wrapped in a black curtain and disappeared in a flash. This palm strike seemed to be attacking the immeasurable Star Lord's body, but in fact Tian Hun had opened a space tunnel beside the immeasurable Star Lord and blasted him into it. Tian Hun was very smart. He instantly determined the best and fastest way to resolve the matter in front of him. The immeasurable Star Lord who had been blasted into the space tunnel naturally wouldn't die, but he would be temporarily lost in this universe. By the time the immeasurable Star Lord returned here, he would have already taken Yang Tian away. After blasting the immeasurable Star Lord away, Tian Hun flashed and appeared above the little blue dragon's head, slamming down with his palm. Little Qing had been paying attention to Tian Hun. When it sensed the energy ripple above its head, it quickly shrunk its head. Luckily, the little blue dragon reacted quickly and Tian Hun's palm strike missed. Although it had dodged Tian Hun's attack, the little blue dragon suddenly felt that the space around it had solidified, making it difficult for it to move. This was the great star god's ability to freeze space. Even the powerful little blue dragon could only be trapped. Tian Hun knew that the little blue dragon was very important to Yang Tian. Before he obtained the seed of the world tree, he would not kill the little blue dragon. He stepped on the little blue dragon's huge body and looked down. Yang Tian, who had transformed into a dragon and was surrounded by the little blue dragon's huge body, appeared in front of Tian Hun's eyes. At that moment, Yang Tian's body was rolling around, appearing to be in extreme pain. Because space had been frozen, his movements were only a little faster than the little blue dragon's. In the eyes of ordinary people, it was like moving in slow motion. Yang Tian's eyes were closed, and he was in a dazed state. It was as if he had gone through excessive pain and was mentally exhausted. However, the strange thing was that Yang Tian felt like he had become another person, a stranger. At the same time, an unfamiliar memory appeared in his mind. Chapter 587. This was another person's memory. Although it was only a part of it, the moment it appeared in Yang Tian's mind, it made Yang Tian feel extremely conflicted. He felt as though he had become another person. In this memory, there were many strange scenes that Yang Tian felt appeared. For example, the structure of the world. It was actually not the universe, but an entire piece of land that was incomparably vast. In between the land, It was a vast expanse of whiteness. Apart from this, there were many unfamiliar people and unfamiliar things. In this memory, Yang Tian actually saw Shichen Yuyu, the goddess of the Eternal Life Shrine. Seeing these fragmented memories, Yang Tian immediately understood that the unfamiliar memories that appeared in his mind belonged to that mysterious young man. This person's name was He Luoyang, a very strange name. Many people thought that goddess Shichun and He Luoyang were a pair of lovers. However, from these fragmented memories, Yang Tian knew that the two of them were not lovers, but master and disciple. He Luoyang was not very powerful in that mysterious world outside of this universe. His strength was average, but his family background was not bad. Through these fragmented memories, Yang Tian could see that He Luoyang was a little interested in Shichen Yuyu. What appeared in Yang Tian's mind were only the deepest memories of He Luoyang. In the end, Yang Tian even knew how he died. When he was besieged by countless experts in this universe, suddenly, a black-robed masked man who was standing on a green bird appeared. He drew a line in the air. With a simple wave of his hand, the powerful He Luoyang was beheaded. You don't belong here. You crossed the boundary without permission. You are punished to be imprisoned for 100 million years. At the last moment of his memory, He Luoyang heard the old man's indifferent voice. Wasn't this black-robed man the black-robed old man that he had seen before? Yang Tian still remembered that when they parted, the little blue dragon and the green bird were reluctant to part. Yang Tian previously thought that this black-robed old man was only slightly stronger than the great star gods, but now, his realm was simply unfathomable. With just a wave of his hand, he got rid of He Luoyang, whom many great star gods were helpless against. These fragmented memories solved some of the doubts that had existed in Yang Tian's heart for a long time. After knowing this, Yang Tian was no longer afraid that He Luoyang would awaken in his body. This was because He Luoyang's consciousness had already been taken away by that mysterious old man and sealed. After Yang Tian relaxed his consciousness, he no longer resisted the memories appearing. These memories became clearer and clearer in his mind. At this combat skill, suddenly, Yang Tian cried out in surprise in his mind. Because he comprehended He Luoyang from He Luoyang. If it was before He Luoyang's memories appeared, this kind of enormous energy would have instantly caused Yang Tian's body to explode. But now, after the energy had melted, it became incomparably docile. Under Yang Tian's will, it condensed into a ball, leaving only a small portion that was still swimming in his body. Yang Tian guessed that this was because these energies had mistaken him for the original owner. Although energies didn't have self-consciousness, the energies cultivated by different people all had specific attributes and markings. Other than the owner, even if others obtained them, they wouldn't be able to use them directly, unless they were assimilated, just like the energies that Yang Tian had entered Yang Tian's origin realm and were assimilated by the origin realm. Only then could they be transformed into one's own energy. The process of swallowing beast cores and absorbing their energy was actually a kind of assimilation. If one absorbed too much during this process, not only would they not be able to raise their realm, but they would also cause great damage to their body, and they might even explode and die. In Yang Tian's body, when the red energy condensed into a ball, a terrifying aura erupted from Yang Tian's body. The moment this aura appeared, it actually scattered the domain that Tian Han had set up in the surrounding space. The little blue dragon, who had regained its freedom, swung its tail and shook its body, flinging the shocked Tian Han to the side. The little blue dragon loathed Tian Han, who had stood on its body without its permission. After shaking off Tian Han, the little blue dragon turned its huge dragon head and prepared to attack Tian Han. Tian Han's figure suddenly flickered and disappeared. Tian Han didn't leave. When he reappeared, he was already beside Yang Tian's dragon head, about 30 meters away from Yang Tian. At this time, Yang Tian opened his two large dragon eyes. The little blue dragon had never seen Yang Tian have such a sharp gaze. It was as if this gaze could kill. Tian Han was extremely small compared to Yang Tian, who had transformed into a giant dragon. However, he possessed a powerful energy that didn't match his body. Realizing that Yang Tian's body had become dangerous, Tian Han appeared and struck out with his strongest palm, aiming for Yang Tian's forehead. At this time, a black sphere appeared under his palm. This ping-pong-sized black sphere was like a black hole in the universe, causing the surrounding space to distort. The black sphere instantly left Tian Han's palm and shot toward Yang Tian. During this process, the black sphere rapidly grew in size. This black sphere couldn't be underestimated. It could make a massive star disappear from this universe. The energy that a great star god cultivator possessed was already at the edge of what this world could tolerate. If he became any stronger, it would be considered overstepping his boundaries. Yang Tian's transformation made Tian Han no longer consider preserving Yang Tian's life. This was because the current Yang Tian gave him immense pressure. His intuition told him that if this palm didn't kill Yang Tian, he would be in big trouble. Yang Tian had obtained an incomparably powerful energy. Coupled with a portion of Luoyang's memories, his strength had already reached the standard of overstepping boundaries. At this time, Yang Tian clearly felt that this universe had produced a faint repulsive force against him. Facing the incoming black ball, Yang Tian opened his mouth and sucked the black ball into his mouth. The black ball with terrifying destructive power disappeared just like that. Tian Han, who had struck out with his palm, had already left his original spot and appeared not far behind Yang Tian. He wanted to see if this palm strike could kill the current Yang Tian. The result disappointed him very much. At the same time, it also shocked him. Tian Han believed that even the superstar god temple's high priest empty god wouldn't dare take this move head-on. He could only dodge. However, his strongest attack had been easily neutralized by Yang Tian. Not long ago, Yang Tian had only been a great Star Lord cultivator. He could kill Yang Tian with a flick of his finger. But now, Yang Tian was able to easily neutralize his powerful attack. This contrast made Tian Han very uncomfortable. There was nothing he could do about it. He was no longer Yang Tian's match. If he didn't leave now, he wouldn't be able to. With a thought, Tian Han's figure flashed and escaped into a spatial passageway in an attempt to escape. Using a spatial passageway, a great star god could instantly travel from one corner of the universe to another corner. It was even faster than using a teleportation array disk. At that moment, Tian Han had disappeared from the little blue dragon's eyes. However, Yang Tian lowered his head and looked curiously at the space below. There, Tian Han was like a fish in a fish tank, slowly moving. This situation gave Yang Tian the feeling that he was in control of the entire universe. Yang Tian stared curiously for a very long time. To him, it was a very long time, but to the little blue dragon and Tian Han, it was only an instant. At that moment, Yang Tian felt the memories in his mind suddenly become blurry. At the same time, more than half of the energy in his body had been used up. He couldn't wait any longer. He had to kill Tian Han immediately. Yang Tian immediately understood that his powerful ability was only temporary. It wouldn't last for long. If he waited any longer, his realm would fall and he would return to his previous state. With a thought, Yang Tian's dragon whisker whipped down and hit Tian Han's head. Tian Han had just come out of the spatial passageway and thought that he was safe. He didn't expect a terrifying energy to attack him from above. He didn't even have a chance to dodge. Pong! Tian Han's body was turned into a bloody mist by Yang Tian's attack. This bloody mist wanted to condense and take shape again, but Yang Tian opened his mouth and spat out a very beautiful flame that emitted 9-colored light. It was like a rainbow cloud that enveloped the bloody mist. In just an instant, this bloody mist turned into the most basic particles of the universe. This was also Yang Tian's final attack. After spitting out this flame, all the energy he had absorbed before, except for the energy that entered the origin realm and was absorbed by the cells in his body, had disappeared. At the same time, in his mind, Luoyang's memories also became blurry and finally disappeared. After killing Tian Han, Yang Tian was stunned for a long time and kept shaking his head. The situation just now was like a brief dream of becoming a powerhouse. Now that he thought about it, it felt very unreal. Roar! Seeing that Yang Tian was fine, the little blue dragon opened his mouth and roared. Hearing the little blue dragon's roar, Yang Tian completely woke up. Yang Tian was about to ask the little blue dragon if what happened just now was real when he suddenly blacked out and fell asleep. The unconscious Yang Tian didn't have any chaotic energy fluctuations on his body, which made the little blue dragon feel relieved. It raised its head and glanced around. It swam around and used its huge body to encircle Yang Tian again, quietly waiting for Yang Tian to wake up. The battle just now made the little blue dragon a little discouraged. It felt that it didn't help Yang Tian, and its eyes looked a little lonely. More than 10 minutes later, not far away, there was a fluctuation in space. An immeasurable Star-Lord appeared. Seeing that Yang Tian was fine, immeasurable Star-Lord nodded and relaxed his nervous heart. At the same time, he also felt strange and thought, where did that old guy Tian Hun go? Chapter 588. Immeasurable Star-Lord still didn't know that Tian Hun had already been killed by Yang Tian. Even if Yang Tian woke up and told him what had happened, Immeasurable Star-Lord probably wouldn't believe him. Although Immeasurable Star-Lord had helped Yang Tian before, the little blue dragon's eyes staring at Immeasurable Star-Lord were incomparably cold and guarded. In this world, the little blue dragon would only believe Yang Tian. Other strangers were all hidden enemies to it. Seeing that the little blue dragon was wary of him, Immeasurable Star-Lord felt bored and left. Immeasurable Star-Lord didn't leave and looked at Yang Tian from afar. He wanted to know what had happened after he was blasted into the spatial passage by Tian Hun. Immeasurable Star-Lord guessed that Yang Tian must have handed over the thing that Tian Hun wanted. At the thought of this possibility, Immeasurable Star-Lord felt somewhat glad and also somewhat angry. He was glad that Yang Tian was fine. He was angry because, in any case, Immeasurable Star-Lord couldn't describe this feeling. It was like a father seeing his son survive from the hands of a powerful enemy. He was happy, but at the same time, he was dissatisfied that his son wasn't unyielding enough in order to save his life. This was a very contradictory state of mind. If calculated according to the time on Earth, Yang Tian slept for about 7 days and 7 nights before finally waking up. After Yang Tian woke up, he transformed back into a human. The little blue dragon had long put away the clothes, armor, storage bracelet, and other things that Yang Tian used when he transformed. The moment Yang Tian transformed back into a human, the little blue dragon spat out these things from its mouth and handed them to Yang Tian. After Yang Tian put on the clothes and armor, Immeasurable Star-Lord flashed over and appeared in front of Yang Tian. Many thanks, father-in-law. Yang Tian was stunned when he saw Immeasurable Star-Lord. Then he scratched his head and smiled. Facing the Immeasurable Star-Lord, Yang Tian really didn't know what to say. Immeasurable Star-Lord carefully sized up Yang Tian. He didn't express any opinion on how Yang Tian addressed him. He asked indifferently, "Where's that old geezer Tian Hun? Heavenly chaos?" To be honest, the situation just now was like a dream to Yang Tian. Although that was the case, Yang Tian knew that it was real. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't be here right now. Instead, he would have been captured by Tian Hun and taken to some unknown place. Tian Hun is already dead, Yang Tian replied after some thought. Dead? When Immeasurable Star-Lord heard this, he was extremely shocked. He then asked, how did he die? Yang Tian really wanted to say that he was killed by a sudden burst of luck, but looking at his current realm, Immeasurable Star-Lord definitely wouldn't believe it. Besides, even if Immeasurable Star-Lord believed it, it would be very troublesome to explain the changes in his body. Yang Tian rolled his eyes and said he was killed by a black-clothed, masked man riding a bird. That person just waved his hand. As he spoke, Yang Tian gestured what he saw in his dream. Although this memory was already very vague, Yang Tian still remembered the movements of that black-clothed, masked man. Seeing Yang Tian's gestured, immeasurable Star-Lord couldn't help but frown, his eyes full of shock. Yang Tian could tell from Immeasurable Star-Lord's eyes that Immeasurable Star-Lord was very likely present when that black-clothed old man killed He Luoyang that day. Continue to work hard, Immeasurable Star-Lord said indifferently and left in a flash. After Immeasurable Star-Lord left, the little blue dragon turned back into a mini dragon and returned to Yang Tian's shoulder. Very soon, Yang Tian returned to the Black Dragon spaceship. In fact, after waking up, Yang Tian felt as if his body had been hollowed out, and he was sore and powerless. Yang Tian, who was worried that there would be sequelae, lay down on the seat of the cockpit as soon as he returned to the spaceship and began to observe his physical condition. After a careful examination, Yang Tian was finally relieved. Although he didn't succeed in advancing, and his realm remained at the level of a major Star Lord, his origin realm had expanded at least a few times, and the capacity of his cells had also increased. The reason why he felt powerless was mainly on the mental level. It was like an ordinary person who had a nightmare all night. Even if his body was fine, his mind would be somewhat affected. Fortunately, he could recover as long as he rested for a while. After 7 days, Jade Sun Nancy returned to the Flame Planet. After receiving Yang Tian's notice, Zhu Yangshi hurriedly left the Flame Planet and entered Yang Tian's Black Dragon spaceship. Everything is good in the God Martial clan. After the princess removed the seal in her body, she displayed her bloodline power. The clansmen were all excited and treated her like a god. That little fellow Jade Sun Tian is not bad, but he is still young and impulsive. However, after some training, he will definitely become a talent. After returning to the Black Dragon spaceship, Zhu Yangshi reported the affairs of the Jade Sun clan to Yang Tian in detail, and finally made a concluding statement. After hearing this, Yang Tian nodded in satisfaction and asked indifferently, "What about the things I asked you to give to her?" Zhu Yangshi smiled and said, "I've already given them to her. There are so many beast cores that they should be able to use for a long time. It shouldn't be difficult for them to settle down in this remote northern spill star field. After all, Brother Yang, you have already eliminated all their enemies." Yang Tian took out a storage bracelet that contained thousands of beast cores of various grades and placed them into another storage bracelet before unbinding it. These beast cores could support several cultivators to cultivate to the superstar realm, but they could not satisfy the entire clan. Yang Tian did not care much about the Jade Sun clan. He did this for the sake of Jade Sun Tian and Jade Sun Nancy. Zhu Yangshi had a lot to say, but Yang Tian, who was not in good spirits, insisted on listening to him. He ordered the Black Dragon spaceship to return to the Ketla planet and close his eyes to sleep. When Yang Tian woke up, the spaceship was already parked in the outer space of the Flame Planet. After another nap and swallowing a superstar warrior beast core, Yang Tian finally recovered his energy. Yang Tian did not want to land the spaceship on a planet again, so he got off the spaceship in space and stored it in his storage bracelet. During this process, Yang Tian used his mind power to protect Zhu Yangshi so that he would not be harmed by the cosmic radiation. After storing the spaceship, Yang Tian carried Zhu Yangshi and landed in the manor of the 7 Light Rain and 7 Color Sisters. When Yang Tian arrived, he asked Belle to send a message to the sisters, but he did not get a response. It seemed that they were busy. After Yang Tian arrived, the manor, which had been renamed Azure Dragon, was very quiet. There was not a single person in sight. In this silence, there were dozens of weak auras. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon also heard a child crying. Something bad must have happened. Yang Tian immediately frowned and arrived at a small villa where the child's cries were coming from. The 2 sisters treated Zhu Wei and his men well. They had specially built a small villa-like house for these guards. There were dozens of these villas. They were very beautiful and exquisite, and they were neatly arranged. In the villa where the crying came from, the furniture and decorations were very messy, and there were signs of a fight. There were 2 people dead on the stairs on the first floor. Yang Tian saw them and knew that they were Zhu Wei's subordinates. It seemed that they had met a strong opponent, and were killed without much resistance. Yang Tian walked up the stairs to the second floor and pushed open the door to a bedroom. When Yang Tian saw the situation inside, his eyes widened and flames of anger ignited within them. Zhu Wei's wife, Qi Li Shi, had her neck slit and was lying in a pool of blood. Her body was twitching, and she kept making hee-hee sounds. She wanted to say something, but could not. At the side, a little boy with a broken leg was crying. Yang Tian had not returned for many years. This little boy should be Zhu Wei's son. He was named Zhu Chun by Zhu Wei, and he looked to be about 5 or 6 years old. Zhu Chen's legs were cut off by a sharp weapon. The wound was very smooth, probably because it was injected with a small intelligent machine. The wound was sealed, and he did not die from excessive blood loss. Yang Tian immediately released the intelligent assistant Bell from his storage bracelet and let Bell immediately inform the nearby medical institutions to come and treat him. Qi Li Shi could not breathe because her windpipe was cut. Blood rushed into her lungs, and blood flowed out from her nose. If Yang Tian came a few minutes later, she would not be saved. Even a great star God Realm cultivator could not save an ordinary person whose brain had died. Yang Tian squatted in front of Qi Li Shi. Powerful spiritual energy rushed out from his origin realm, turning into thousands of strands and entered Qi Li Shi's body. It began to maintain Qi Li Shi's vitality and heal her wounds. Zhu Chen had seen Yang Tian's photo before. After recognizing him, he called out Uncle Yang Tian and fainted. There were also many small intelligent machines in Qi Li Shi's blood, but because her injuries were too severe, these machines could not heal Qi Li Shi's wounds in a short time. However, they allowed Qi Li Shi to hold on for at least half an hour. In other words, this attack happened half an hour ago. While Yang Tian was saving Qi Li Shi, 7 Light Rain, 7 Kai, Zhu Wei, and 7 Light How were already in the Kaitra Business Alliance's headquarters building. This building had a few hundred floors, reaching into the clouds. It was the second tallest building on Kaitra after the government building. The Universe Business Alliance was a very powerful organization. Any company that joined the alliance would be protected by the alliance. The alliance also had the ability to protect the interests of these companies from being harmed. After countless years of development, the upper echelons of the alliance had undergone countless changes of power. It had basically become a dominant force. The one controlling the alliance was the Wei Shi family. The 199th floor of the Business Alliance building, in a small meeting room. 7 Light Rain, 7 Kai, Zhu Wei, and 7 Light How sat together. Their faces were all filled with anger. Zhu Wei and 7 Light How had gone through a fierce battle. Their faces were covered in blood. Their black armor was given to them by Yang Tian. Its defense was amazing. However, this kind of armor was actually destroyed by someone. There were many cracks on the armor, and there were gaps on the chest and shoulders covered in blood. Some of the runes on the armor were actually destroyed by someone with precise attacks. This caused the armor to lose the defensive ability of the runes. It could be seen that the person who attacked them had great attainments in Talisman Dao. 7 Light Rain and 7 Kai were dressed neatly, and their makeup was not smudged. It could be seen that the person who attacked them was very polite to them. Opposite the 4 of them sat a young man. This person had long golden hair. He was very handsome and had a noble aura. It was obvious that he came from a large family. This person sized up the 4 for a long time before finally smiling and saying, "Don't look at me with hatred and anger. I didn't send people to attack you. In fact, you should be thanking me, because I was the one who took you from the Hongyu family. Otherwise, you might already be dead. You sure make it sound nice." 7 Light Rain stared at the golden-haired young man and sneered, "Wike sedating. If the Hongyu family didn't have your approval, how would they dare to do such a thing? Only now did I realize that the Merchant Union is not a good thing. The billions that we handed over to the Merchant Union all these years are equivalent to feeding feces." Feces was a very ugly bug in the universe. 7 Light Rain's last sentence, in the words of Earth, was feeding the dog. After so many years of training, 7 Light Rain was no longer the girl that Yang Tian first met. Even in such a passive situation, Seven Light Rain still appeared very calm. Seven Kai's face was also very calm. Although he was scolded, Sedating still had a smile on his face and said indifferently, "Don't you know that the world has changed? In the past, there was the superstar divine temple, and the universe was still peaceful. But now, the newly risen temple of eternal life is about to have a decisive battle with it. That will be the greatest war in the history of the universe. What does this have to do with us?" Before Sedating finished, Seven Light Rain said indifferently. Sedating looked at Seven Light Rain and shook his head with a smile, saying, "I don't want to say anything more to you. Promise to hand over your resources, and I'll let you go." After Sedating finished speaking, Seven Kai suddenly raised her head and said with some surprise, "You want to establish a new order in the universe. How ambitious." Ha ha ha. Sedating couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 589. Rainbow looked at Wei Shidong. "What are you laughing at? Did I say something wrong?" No. Wei Shidong waved his hand. "You didn't say anything wrong. In fact, you're absolutely right. I didn't expect Lil Jiao to be so smart. Many of the cultivators involved couldn't guess what our Wei Shi clan is thinking." Seven Light Rain and Seven Color were very famous now. They were called the Two Jiao. The sister Seven Light Rain was called the Jiao, while Seven Color was Xiao Jiao. Many young masters from rich families wanted to marry one of them, or even both at the same time. Not only were they beautiful, but they were also very capable. After Wei Shidong finished, Seven Color lowered her head. She didn't want to talk to this person anymore. At this moment, Zhu Wei looked at Wei Shidong and sneered. "Just your Wei Shi clan wants to establish a new order in the universe. That's ridiculous. Even if the two temples were destroyed and all the top fighters in them died, it still wouldn't be your turn." Wei Shidong laughed. "You're wrong. Our Wei Shi clan doesn't want to rule the universe. We just want to unite with other clans." At this point, Wei Shidong didn't continue. Now that things hadn't started, he didn't want to leak the news. The reason why he said so much to the fore was because after this matter was over, Wei Shidong wouldn't let them live. You guys think about it. The next time I come in, if you don't agree, the outcome will be very tragic. For example, you two sisters, I think many people would want to spend money to spend a beautiful night with you. Ha ha! Wei Shidong stood up and laughed as he left. After Wei Shidong left, Zhu Wei and Seven Light Hao glanced at each other, sending each other a resolute look. "This old man advises you guys not to have any bad thoughts. With me here, you can't do anything." At this moment, a red-robed old man said flatly. This red-robed old man was Wei Shidong's subordinate, a stellar domain lord-level cultivator. Even if Zhu Wei and Seven Light Hao teamed up, they wouldn't be his match. Plus, there were 3 other middle-aged men in black armor in the meeting room. All 3 of them were stellar kings and stellar lords. Previously, it was these 4 people who had barged into the Azure Dragon Manor, killed and heavily injured Zhu Wei's subordinates at an extremely fast speed, and brought the 4 of them here. Zhu Wei's chest was filled with anger when he thought of his good brothers who had been drinking with him being killed by these people. He wished he could immediately perish together with these people. However, his rationality suppressed his anger. After traveling the universe for so many years, Zhu Wei had long understood that nothing was certain until the very last moment. He knew that Yang Tian would definitely come in the next 2 days. He didn't know if he would make it in time. Under the catalysis of Yang Tian's mental power, the cells in Chrissy's wound quickly split and grew, healing in less than 10 minutes. During the process of treating Qi Li Shi, Yang Tian also rejoiced for Qi Li Shi. This slash did not cut off her head. Furthermore, this slash also carried some kind of energy. Perhaps the cultivator who attacked Qi Li Shi was holding back because he saw that Qi Li Shi was not a cultivator. After more than 10 minutes, the hospital still did not send a car over. Yang Tian felt that it was very strange, so he asked Belle to contact them again. The results made Yang Tian very angry because the nearby hospital refused to come and treat them. The situation was very obvious. The hospital was definitely afraid of something. Those who dared to touch Seven Light Rain and the Rainbow Sisters were definitely a powerful force, and it was very likely those people from the big families. Cough, cough, cough. After being treated by Yang Tian, Qi Lishi coughed and coughed out the blood in her lungs. At this time, Qi Lishi could finally speak. Who did it? Yang Tian frowned and asked. Qi Lishi coughed again and replied in a hoarse voice. Brother Wei said it was someone from the Hongyu family, but it's not that simple. I seem to have heard them mention the Wei Shi family, and they also mentioned the name Wei Shi Datong. Wei Shi Datong. Wei Shi Datong is the successor of the Wei Shi family. Although he is young, he has already started to handle the family's affairs. The Merchant Alliance is now controlled by the Wei Shi family. Merchant Alliance? Yang Tian still had a good impression of the Universe Merchant Alliance. Because of its existence, the business competition in the universe became more fair. Qi Lishi was Seven Light Rain's assistant, and also Zhu Wei's wife, so she could be considered one of them. Qi Lishi knew a lot of things. After Qi Lishi finished speaking, Yang Tian asked Belle to check the location of the Kaitron Merchant Alliance's headquarters. This incident happened not long ago, and Yang Tian was sure that Seven Light Rain and the rest were brought to the Merchant Alliance's territory. Zhu Wei's son, Zhu Chun, was very sensible. Seeing that Yang Tian was done asking, he crawled over and said to Yang Tian, Uncle Yang, please save my father. Don't worry, your father will be fine. Take care of yourselves. I will be back in a while. With that, Yang Tian left in a flash. Both of them had micro-intelligent robots in their bodies. As long as it was not a fatal injury, they would slowly recover. Have you thought it through? Do you agree to my conditions? Or do you want to give up your lives? The door of the Merchant Alliance's meeting room was suddenly pushed open, and Wei Shi Datong, who had left not long ago, walked in and asked with a frown. Seven Light Rain said, Your Merchant Alliance should not be lacking in money, right? For the Shuangjiao Group to be chosen by the Merchant Alliance, I am really honored. Wei Shi Datong shook his head and said, Don't underestimate your own company. After our evaluation, it is the company with the most potential for development in the future. Clothing, beverages, all kinds of delicacies, hotels. Recently, you have invested in many high-tech companies and have the ability to manufacture machines and equipment. According to reliable sources, you are preparing to produce storage tools and want to popularize these tools so that everyone can have one. There are also teleportation discs, runic treasures. You actually have the ability to manufacture runic treasures. This is very surprising to us. After Wei Shi Datong finished speaking, Seven Light Rain and Seven Kai frowned. This was mentioned in the message that Yang Tian sent to them a few years ago. In fact, the most important task that Yang Tian gave them was to prepare for the construction of the family castle, and the production of storage tools and so on were all mentioned by Yang Tian in passing. Yang Tian had the help of the Strange program, and it was not difficult to produce these things. These things designed by the Strange program were even more convenient and easy to use than the current products, and could be promoted among ordinary people. If this matter was successful, what kind of situation would it be? It was estimated that all the business companies in the universe would submit to the Shuangjiao Group, and by then, the wealth at the Shuangjiao Group could even open a universe bank. Such a matter made Wei Shi Datong's blood boil just thinking about it. Of course, he had to first obtain the key technology. The two sisters did not expect that such a confidential matter would be known by Wei Shi Datong. Obviously, there was a mole around them. Who was it? The four of them looked at each other, their eyes full of suspicion. Wei Shi Datong smiled and waved his hand when he saw the look in their eyes. At this time, a beautiful young woman walked in. Jishu Bei Bei. Seeing this beautiful woman, Qi Guanghao could not help but call out. This beautiful woman was called Jishu Bei Bei and was from the Jishu family. She looked similar to Jishu Lan Lan in history. After calling out, Qi Guanghao understood everything and lowered his head dejectedly. At this time, he remembered that one time when he brought Jishu Bei Bei out to play, he bragged that storage bracelets are very simple. We can also make them. Perhaps it was this sentence that leaked the secret. Jishu Bei looked at Qi Guanghao with an apologetic gaze and said lightly, Qi Guanghao, you are indeed very hard-working, but in this universe, you are only an ordinary cultivator. I want a man with top cultivation talent. I am sorry, you are not suitable. I hope you can cooperate with us. The Jishu family will not mistreat you in the future. This is really interesting. Even the Jishu family is involved. As soon as Jishu Bei finished speaking, a young man's voice suddenly sounded in the meeting room. Hearing this familiar voice, Qi Guanghao was shocked and looked towards the direction of the voice, and saw Yang Tian standing in the innermost corner of the meeting room with a smile. Chapter 590. Yang Tian's appearance shocked everyone present. For Seven Light Rain and the others, it was a pleasant surprise. However, for Wike Sedating and the others, it was a shock. This was because they had not sensed Yang Tian's appearance. What did this mean? This meant that Yang Tian's cultivation base was so high that they had not been able to sense it. Although he had not successfully broken through to the great astral god grade, and the process of killing Tian Han had become very vague in his mind, Yang Tian had still gained a lot. This was especially true in terms of his understanding of spatial energy. Upon seeing everyone's shocked expressions, Yang Tian pointed at Wike Sedating and the 4 Stargrade subordinates and asked faintly, You guys, who made a move at the Azure Dragon Manor? Wike Sedating and his 4 subordinates, as well as Jishu and Bei, looked bewildered. When he saw that no one answered Yang Tian, Seven Light Hao raised his hand and pointed at the 4 Stargrade cultivators who had brought them here. Brother Yang, it's the 4 of them. Yang Tian turned his head and looked at Seven Light Hao unhappily. After meeting Yang Tian's gaze, Seven Light Hao lowered his head guiltily. Because the reason why such a thing happened was because of his vanity. Haha, these 4 people are not my men. You guys can take your time to sort this out. Wike Sedating suddenly chuckled and distanced himself from the 4 of them. After saying that, he turned around and got ready to leave. However, before he could walk out of the door, he realized that his body was bound by a powerful force. He could not move at all. After using his mind power to bind Wike Sedating, Yang Tian walked to the conference table and sat down. He smiled and said, If we don't get to the bottom of this today, don't even think about leaving. After saying that, Yang Tian turned his head and looked at the 4 Stargrade cultivators. The 4 of them looked at Yang Tian and frowned. Their expressions were very grave. Although they did not sense any powerful energy undulations from Yang Tian's body, their instincts told them that this person before them was very dangerous. The 4 of them felt the same way that Yang Tian had felt when he had faced Tian Han. A cultivator's instincts were very accurate. Under Yang Tian's cold gaze, the red-robed old man, who had the highest cultivation base, gritted his teeth and said, We are only following orders. Whose orders? Yang Tian asked. This person was a cultivator at the Stellar Domain Lord level. Yang Tian noticed that his red robe was embroidered with inconspicuous runes. It was obvious that this person was a talisman Dao expert. Hearing Yang Tian's commanding tone, a hint of anger flashed in the red-robed old man's eyes. However, he suppressed it and replied calmly, Hong Yu clan. Hong Yu clan. And your Jishu clan. Yang Tian turned his head and carefully observed Jishu Bei. Jishu Bei was indeed very beautiful. It was no wonder that Qi Guanghao had been infatuated with her. When she heard Yang Tian mention the Jishu family, Jishu Bei became a little nervous. In Jishu Bei's eyes, Yang Tian might not be emitting a powerful energy fluctuation, but he possessed a strange aura that caused her to be unable to breathe. You can leave, Yang Tian said faintly after sizing up Jishu Bei. Jishu Bei was stunned for a moment before she heaved a sigh of relief. She immediately turned around and walked out quickly. She walked past Wike Sedating, who was still struggling but could not speak. When she reached the door, she heard Yang Tian say, Tell Jishu Wudi that the person your family has been looking for a long time is with me. When she heard Yang Tian say this, Jishu Beibei turned around and asked doubtfully, "Our family isn't looking for anyone." Jishu Beibei looked at Yang Tian with an innocent look on her face. She was very adorable. Perhaps she was just faking it. Some beautiful women were very good at making use of their assets. When Qi Guanghao saw Jishu Beibei's appearance, he felt very uncomfortable. Back then, it was precisely because he saw Jishu Beibei's innocent appearance that his heart was moved. Jishu Beibei had not approached Qi Guanghao of her own accord. It was Qi Guanghao who had approached her and inadvertently revealed the secret. When Yang Tian saw Jishu Beibei's adorable look, he did not feel anything. Instead, he said faintly, "Just tell Jishu Wudi what I said." The person Yang Tian had mentioned was actually not a person, but a corpse. It was Jishu Lanlin's corpse. This matter had happened a long time ago, so it was normal that Jishu Beibei could not recall it right away. "All right." Jishu Beibei agreed to Yang Tian's request and walked out the door. "Why did you let her go?" "Big brother Yang." Qi Guanghao asked in confusion. Yang Tian ignored Qi Guanghao. Instead, he looked at the red-robed old man and the other 3 star-grade cultivators and said with a smile, "Now, it's your turn." Before Yang Tian could finish speaking, the red-robed old man suddenly pounced on him. The red-robed old man appeared before Yang Tian almost instantly. At that moment, a short blade engraved with runes appeared in the red-robed old man's hand. However, before the tip of the blade could touch Yang Tian's body, the little blue dragon moved. Although it did not transform into a huge dragon, the little blue dragon was still very powerful. It was not something this star-grade cultivator could compare to. The little blue dragon shook its head and released a powerful force that struck the red-robed old man's chest. Bang! 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 Several loud sounds were heard as the red-robed old man's body passed through several solid walls and flew out of the building. With a flash of green, the little blue dragon immediately chased after him. Although he was hit by the little blue dragon, the red-robed old man was not fatally wounded. The red robe that he was wearing had a powerful defense and saved his life. After he was knocked out of the building, the red-robed old man's robe lit up with a red light, and he suddenly disappeared. The little blue dragon instantly appeared where the red-robed old man had disappeared and slammed with its dragon claw. Pung! Another loud sound. This claw had knocked the red-robed old man out of the building. The red-robed old man's body quickly fell and crashed into the entrance of the Merchant Alliance, creating a crater that was dozens of meters wide. The little blue dragon looked down at the crater and opened its mouth to spit out a stream of dragon flames. Boom! The dragon flames fell into the crater, and the red-robed old man at the bottom of the crater did not even have time to react before he was burned to ashes. The other 3 subordinates of the red-robed old man wanted to escape when the red-robed old man pounced at Yang Tian. But as soon as they moved, they were blasted into a bloody mist by Yang Tian's 3 fingers. The Weishi family did not only have these few star-level cultivators. After knowing that Shu Beibei had left, they immediately informed the Weishi family about the situation here. Wizitotone was very important to the Weishi family. The Weishi family's cultivators that were left on planet Kaitra immediately gathered at the Merchant Alliance's building. After the little blue dragon had killed the red-robed old man, it immediately returned to Yang Tian's shoulder. Only then did Yang Tian loosen the restrictions on Wizitotone's spiritual power. Wizitotone, who could move and speak slowly, turned his head with difficulty and looked at Yang Tian with a cold smile. He gritted his teeth and said, "If you kill me, you will die as well. I am a successor of the Weishi family." Yang Tian ignored Wei Shi Datong's threat and appeared in front of Wei Shi Datong in a flash. He grabbed Wei Shi Datong's neck and twisted it forcefully. With a crack sound, the successor of Wei Shi clan lost his life. "Brother Yang, this is bad." Zhu Wei walked up and said worriedly when he saw Wizitotone thrown to the ground by Yang Tian. Zhu Wei did not expect that Yang Tian would not care about the consequences. He had killed such an important person from the Weishi family, so casually. Yang Tian, on the other hand, had an indifferent expression. He took out a tissue from his storage bracelet and wiped his hands as he said with a smile, "If you want to kill me, then so be it. The Weishi family knows that it was me, Yang Tian, who did it. At least they won't come looking for trouble with us for now." Chapter 591. When Yang Tian and the others walked out of the trade union building, they were surrounded by at least a few hundred cultivators. Among these people, the strongest cultivator was only at the peak Stargrade realm, the same as the red-robed old man. Actually, in those large family clans, there were very few superstar realm and above cultivators who would work as lackeys for these family clans. Firstly, superstar realm and above cultivators were very few in number among the huge group of cultivators. There were many family clans and powers in the universe, and each family clan only had a few of them. Secondly, these people were rare powerhouses with pride and did not want to lower their status to serve these family clans. It would be great if they could cultivate freely. Thirdly, the price of raising a superstar realm cultivator was too high. After Yang Tian walked out of the door and glanced at these Stargrade cultivators, he no longer concealed his cultivation base. Instead, a powerful energy erupted from his body. After knowing Yang Tian's cultivation base, the cultivators surrounding Yang Tian and the others were alarmed and couldn't help but retreat. The encirclement expanded many times in an instant. Yang Tian smiled faintly and led 7 light rain and the others in the direction of the Azure Dragon Manor. The people in front of Yang Tian and the others took the initiative to make way for them. Nobody dared to step forward and make a move. Half an hour later, Yang Tian and the others returned to the Azure Dragon Manor smoothly. "Big brother Yang, you are finally back. I was so worried." Zhu Yangshi ran over as soon as he returned to the manor and said with a sigh of relief, "Where did you run off to?" Yang Tian asked with a smile as he looked at Zhu Yangshi's chubby face. After Yang Tian said that, Zhu Yangshi smiled bitterly. "You can't blame me. I was captured by the people here and almost killed. I had to spend a lot of effort to explain the situation." After Zhu Yangshi said that, 2 injured guards in black armor walked over quickly and nodded at Zhu Wei, who was standing beside Yang Tian. Zhu Yangshi turned around and pointed at the 2 of them. "Big brother Yang, it's them. These 2 fellows are very treacherous." Before Zhu Yangshi could finish, Yang Tian smiled and said, "It is all a misunderstanding. Who told you to run around?" Zhu Yang smiled helplessly. Actually, he wanted to blame Yang Tian for abandoning him and running away. However, after thinking about it, he decided not to say anything. While they were talking, Zhu Wei's wife, Qi Lishi, walked over with her son whose leg had been set. Seeing that his wife and son were fine, Zhu Wei couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. From Zhu Wei's point of view, the people who attacked them wouldn't attack ordinary humans. He didn't expect these people to be so ruthless. There were corpses everywhere in the manor, and some guards were seriously injured and unconscious. Yang Tian personally began to treat these injured and unconscious guards. Most of these people had their bodies invaded by energy. If there were no more powerful cultivators to help them expel the energy from their bodies, they wouldn't be able to hold on for long. While Yang Tian and Zhu Wei were treating the injured, 7 Light Rain called for another group of people to start cleaning and repairing the manor. Rainbow paid attention to the Twin Jiao Corporation's current business situation and made all kinds of arrangements according to the previous plan. After Yang Tian treated the injured guards, he lay down on a deck chair by the pool with a gloomy face. As for Qi Guanghao, he stood in front of Yang Tian anxiously. Ever since they returned, Yang Tian had ignored 7 Light Hao. Seeing that Yang Tian was about to teach 7 Light Hao a lesson, no one dared to come over and join the fun. They knew that Yang Tian was very dissatisfied with 7 Light Hao. This guy had been too complacent for the past 2 years. Someone should teach him a lesson. Apart from Yang Tian, no one here could teach him a lesson. This was the reason why Yang Tian left Yu Yang Tian in northern Spillstar region. If he were to acknowledge Yu Yang Tian as his son now and keep him by his side, If he took Yang Tian with him now, he would most likely end up like Seven Light Hao. His sense of superiority would grow stronger and stronger until he became complacent. Even if Yang Tian had strict requirements for Jade Sun, the people under Yang Tian would most likely treat Jade Sun like an ancestor. Big brother Yang Tian, I was wrong. After standing in front of Yang Tian for a long time, Seven Light Hao mustered up his courage and looked guiltily at Yang Tian. Go back to the academy. If there's nothing going on, you're not allowed to come out. Yang Tian glanced at Seven Light Hao and said indifferently. Seven Light Hao hadn't even reached the planetary region Lord grade yet. Clearly, he hadn't worked as hard as he had in the past 2 years. Yes, Seven Light Hao agreed, helplessly before turning around and walking out of the manor. After taking a few steps, he heard Yang Tian say, "If you're still stuck at this level at the end of the year, I'll be very disappointed." Seven Light Hao couldn't help but stop and turn around to look at Yang Tian. Big brother Yang, I won't let you down. After saying that, Seven Light Hao turned around resolutely and walked towards the manor's entrance. At this moment, Seven Light Hao was very happy. Because Yang Tian had such strict requirements for Seven Light Hao, Seven Light Hao understood that Yang Tian hadn't given up on him. 10 days later, Yang Tian personally handed a list of materials that the strange program had created to Seven Light Rain. Although there were hundreds of materials recorded on this list, the quantity of each material wasn't very high. However, the prices of these materials were very expensive. Seven Light Rain calculated that it would cost about 10 trillion star crystals. Because the two sacred halls were about to have an ultimate battle, the purchasing power of star crystals had increased by a lot. Things that used to cost 10,000 star crystals could now be bought for 7 to 8,000 star crystals. Seven Light Rain completed the calculations and placed the order. After asking the merchant to deliver the items to the designated location, he asked curiously, "Big brother Yang, what are these materials used for?" Yang Tian didn't want to say now, so he smiled and said, "You'll know when the time comes." Seven Light Rain pursed his lips and didn't ask anymore. Now that everything has been arranged, Yang Tianzheng was about to suggest that everyone gather and have a gathering. Everyone had been very tired these past few days. Before Yang Tian could say anything, Bell notified Yang Tian that he had received a message from Soli. It was a voice message. Soli only said one sentence, 5 words. "Yang Tian, it's starting." Yang Tian narrowed his eyes and said to Seven Light Rain, "I have something to do and have to leave for a while. You guys go to that secret location and don't let those people take advantage of you." Seven Light Rain knew that Yang Tian had something important to do and nodded, "Don't worry." In these 10 days, as Yang Tian expected, the Wei Shi family didn't react at all. Yang Tian was a great Star Lord and had the little blue dragon at the same level. At this crucial moment, the Wei Shi family could only endure. While Yang Tian had already started his plan, in the vast starry sky, a huge devouring bug was flying toward the Superstar Divine Temple at an extremely fast speed. The gigantic, eternal temple sat on the devouring insect's back. In order to speed up, Black Talisman Lord, who was controlling the devouring bug, constantly used rune treasures to open space passages in the direction of the devouring bug. Many people had already gathered outside the star field where the Superstar Divine Temple was located. Most of these people were the upper echelons of various families, and their cultivation realms weren't low. In addition, there were many hidden powerhouses like the Boundless Star-Lord. The winner of the 2 temples was about to be decided. Everyone was very curious and wanted to witness this great battle. Of course, they might have to pay a huge price to watch this show. In the goddess palace of the Superstar Divine Temple, Qin Fei sat on a high seat. Below her, dozens of great priests were prostrating. This was the first time the great priest had shown such great respect to Qin Fei. Among the kneeling great priests were Great Priest Mei Chun, Hong Yujio, and Great Priest Taiyu. None of these great priests had red hair. Looking at the great priests below her, Qin Fei frowned and clenched her fists on the armrest of her seat. "Lady Goddess, are you ready?" Hong Yujio suddenly raised his head, looked at the high and mighty Qin Fei, and asked loudly. Chapter 592. Can you find someone else to replace me? Qin Fei gritted her teeth and said under the gazes of the high priests. At this moment, Qin Fei's eyes were filled with nervousness, anger, and helplessness. She finally understood that the goddess of the Superstar Divine Temple was not just a decoration. She played a crucial role in the survival of the Superstar Divine Temple. In the face of Qin Fei's tactful refusal, Hong Yujio said, "Goddess, this is your destiny. In this era, no one can replace you." Although it sounded nice, and the high priests were very respectful, Qin Fei understood that she was still a tool used by these high priests. As soon as Hong Yujio's voice fell, the light shining on the Superstar Divine Temple suddenly dimmed. This was because the devouring insect carrying the Temple of Eternal Life had appeared and blocked part of the light shining on the Superstar Divine Temple. Black Talisman Lord had fed the devouring insect until it turned golden, allowing the devouring insect to reach the peak of the Great Star Lord realm. The devouring insect's eyes was comparable to a planet. If it wanted to, it could devour a planet larger than itself like a snake. The devouring insect stopped about 10,000 kilometers away from the Superstar Divine Temple. A long alarm sounded throughout the Superstar Divine Temple. This was one of the few times since the Superstar Divine Temple was built. However, this was the most dangerous time for the Superstar Divine Temple. Rumble. When the alarm sounded, the entire Superstar Divinity Temple began to tremble. If one was outside the Superstar Divine Temple, they would see that the entire Superstar Divine Temple was transforming at an extremely fast speed. In fact, this huge Superstar Divinity Temple was a large spaceship, just like the Family Fortress. The Superstar Divine Temple was originally triangular in shape, but when it transformed, a silver-white triangular body extended from its bottom. At the same time, the temple's palaces separated and formed blocks that could move locally. They moved in a regular pattern and slowly descended. The silver-white triangular body that extended from the bottom also separated and formed a shell that quickly enveloped the Superstar Divine Temple. In less than 10 minutes, the Superstar Divine Temple had turned into a huge, triangular silver-white spaceship. The original palace buildings were now wrapped in a silver-white shell. This was no ordinary spaceship, as its silvery white exterior was covered with runes. These runes gave it a powerful defensive ability. After the transformation of the temple was complete, the hatch at the bottom opened, and countless small spaceships and a large number of cultivators poured out. Cultivators of the Stargrade realm were not qualified to participate in this decisive battle. They had already been sent out by the empty god high priest. Among these Stargrade cultivators, many of them had strong talents in certain aspects. If the Superstar Divine Temple was defeated, their mission would be to rebuild the Superstar Divine Temple in the future. The small spaceships that emerged were not used for battle. Their function was to set up rune arrays. There were runes on every spaceship. Countless small spaceships quickly flew to the designated location. The runes outside the spaceships suddenly lit up, forming a huge rune energy layer that wrapped around the spaceships, transformed from the Superstar God Temple. There wasn't just one layer of defense, but one layer over another. It was as if there was another bubble within a bubble. Even a Great Star God-grade powerhouse wouldn't be able to break through such a tight defense in a short time. A Great Star God-grade powerhouse wouldn't be able to, but a huge devouring bug could. Goddess Shi-chun looked at the layers of defense of the Superstar Divine Temple with disdain from the high observatory of the Eternal Life Temple. It looked like the Superstar Divine Temple was prepared to defend to the death. If the outer layer of defense was breached, it could activate a huge teleportation array and allow the entire temple to leave this place in an instant. Goddess Shi-chun had thought of all the possibilities. Her goal was to force the Superstar Divine Temple into a corner and force it to use its last resort. Goddess Shi-chun had promised Yang Tian that she wouldn't hurt Qin Fei. However, she couldn't care less if the Superstar Divine Temple hurt their goddess. Goddess Shi-chun didn't know why, but she suddenly thought of Yang Tian. According to her plan, Yang Tian had already completed his task. Even if Yang Tian became a great star god-grade powerhouse, it didn't matter to her anymore. Goddess Shi-Chun had been quietly watching the superstar divine temple's preparations, her eyes filled with confidence. This time, she would definitely achieve her goal. The powerhouses who came out of the superstar divine temple were all superstar realm and above. There were hundreds of great star god-grade cultivators, thousands of great star lord cultivators, and tens of thousands of superstar realm cultivators. The eternal life temple wasn't to be outdone. In fact, they had even more. It was because of the existence of protocells that the two temples were able to create so many powerhouses. At least 80% of these people had red hair. Under the command of Great Priest Empty God, tens of thousands of temple cultivators in black armor hovered in front of the superstar divine temple spaceship. At the same time, the Shrine of Eternal Life had also completed their preparations. More cultivators clad in silver-white armor poured out. Devouring Bug let out a muffled howl when it saw so much fresh food in front of it. Its voice shook the universe. It had no choice but to control its strong desire to devour. The howl sounded like a declaration of war, but it was actually a venting sound. Before Devouring Bug's howl had even died down, Goddess Shi-Chun, who was standing on the observatory, waved her hand and pointed at the superstar divine temple. The Eternal Life Temple's cultivators began to rush toward the superstar divine temple at an extremely fast speed. On the other side of the superstar divine temple, Great Priest Empty God waved his hand as well. Both sides had a supervisory team made up of great star god-grade powerhouses. During the battle, if anyone tried to escape, they would be killed by the supervisory team. Therefore, tens of thousands of superstar realm cultivators had no choice but to bite the bullet and charge toward the other side, even though they knew that they would soon die. From afar, the scene was simply too spectacular. Yang Tian, who was dressed in blue armor, arrived at this moment. Yang Tian looked ahead and saw spaceships of all sizes parked tens of thousands of kilometers away from the battlefield. Some superstar realm powerhouses even stood on top of the spaceships and watched with special binoculars in their hands. Yang Tian also saw spaceships with media logos printed on them. He did not need to guess to know that this battle would definitely be broadcasted live on the internet. There were many spaceships and many cultivators watching the battle. They all formed a circle with a diameter of 100,000 kilometers. It was likely that everyone who could afford it had arrived at the scene. Yang Tian only glanced at these people. With the help of the strange program, his hands flashed and rune energy was released from his hands. The space in front of him fluctuated. Just like that, Yang Tian suddenly disappeared from the spot. Soon, Yang Tian had appeared outside the giant spaceship that the Superstar Divine Temple had transformed into without anyone noticing. Yang Tian had been removed from the list by Great Priest Empty God. Therefore, even if he had the token that represented his identity as a divine general, he could not directly enter the giant spaceship in front of him. However, with the help of the strange program, all of this was not a problem. After collecting enough rune information, the ability of the strange program to crack it increased by countless times compared to before. At this moment, Yang Tian raised his hands again. As his hands flashed quickly, waves of rune energy were released from his hands. Suddenly, Yang Tian was enveloped by a wave of rune energy. Yang Tian chuckled. His hands were still flashing as he rushed into the outermost defense circle of the Superstar Divine Temple. He passed through dozens of layers of defense at an extremely fast speed and entered the giant spaceship through the opened entrance. As soon as he entered the spaceship, Yang Tian felt as if he had returned to the outside of the giant spaceship. In front of him was a flat land. The sky was still the scene of the universe. The observatory was still the tallest building. Chapter 593. The interior of the Superstar Divinity Temple's shell was actually a large display that displayed the situation outside. The original temple had been arranged into several levels. The observatory, goddess palace, builder palace, and other important palaces were all on the first level. At this moment, the observatory was filled with people, and they all had their eyes on the universe outside. There was a battle between superstar realm cultivators outside. The battle was extremely intense, and a large number of people died every second. Yang Tian took a look and shook his head slightly. He wondered how many of the cultivators who participated in this battle would survive in the end. Yang Tian was very glad that he left the superstar god temple. Otherwise, he would probably be involved in the battle now. Yang Tian was wearing blue armor and a helmet. The little blue dragon was lying on his shoulder motionlessly, so no one deliberately paid attention to him. From the entrance to the first floor, there was a flight of stone stairs that led downwards. Yang Tian glanced at the battle outside and the situation on the star observation platform. While no one was paying attention to him, he dashed into a forest beside a shrine. Yang Tian did not see Qin Fei on the observatory. After coming to the forest, he nodded to the little blue dragon. The little blue dragon understood Yang Tian's meaning and turned into a green shadow to go to the goddess palace. There was a great battle outside. Most of the cultivators below the superstar realm had already left the superstar god temple, so there were not many people in the temple. It was not like before, when there were temple guards standing guard and patrolling. Yang Tian looked at the battle outside. After waiting for a few minutes, the little blue dragon returned. It shook its head at Yang Tian, indicating that Qin Fei was not in the goddess palace. Yang Tian glanced at the observatory. Although there were many people on the observatory, there was no sign of Qin Fei. Where did she go? Yang Tian could not help but frown. He had a bad feeling in his heart. The temple was very big, and it was not easy to find one person. Moreover, the terrain had changed, so Yang Tian could not find Qin Fei in a short time. Yang Tian's plan was to take Qin Fei away in the chaos after the Superstar Divine Temple was defeated. Since the Superstar God Temple was no more, Qin Fei naturally would not be restricted. That way, he could live a normal life with Qin Fei. Yang Tian had experienced many things since he had cultivated to his current level. Naturally, he understood that there was an even more peculiar and vast world outside of this universe. However, Yang Tian was not like those top cultivators who were in a hurry to leave this universe. Because he was still very young, he had plenty of time. Furthermore, Yang Tian could guarantee that he would definitely cultivate to the great star god realm. Just like when he was on Earth, he had the confidence to become a level 9 martial artist. At the same time, there were many things waiting for Yang Tian to do in this universe. He did not know where Qin Fei was. Yang Tian was not in a hurry, because it was useless to be anxious. The battle outside could not be ended in a short time. Next, Yang Tian could only separate from the little blue dragon and search in the temple. Soon, Yang Tian arrived at the periphery of the builder's palace. Although the overall shape of the temple had changed, the builder's palace's protection array was still activated. This time, it was much easier to enter the builder's palace. With the help of the strange program, Yang Tian quickly entered the builder's palace. This time, besides sneaking in to take Qin Fei away, Yang Tian's other purpose was to steal the treasures in the builder's palace. Yang Tian was not as careful as before. He randomly chose a storage room. After breaking the array on the door, he immediately walked in. Seeing the stone boxes on the shelf, Yang Tian could not help but be excited. With the help of the strange program, Yang Tian quickly broke the array on the stone boxes. After opening a few boxes, he found that the things inside were still there. Yang Tian could not help but smile. There was no time to open these stone boxes one by one. As long as the things in the storage boxes were still there, it was fine. Yang Tian directly put the storage boxes into his storage bracelet, leaving the shelves empty. What made Yang Tian feel strange was that in the current situation, why did the high priest not put away these things? Yang Tian still did not know the reason. In fact, it was because the Superstar Divine Temple was preparing for a major event. They were confident that they could defeat the Temple of Eternal Life. Even if the Temple of Eternal Life sent out a giant beast and a large warship. There was no one in the architect's palace, and it had long been sealed. Yang Tian seemed to be a little unscrupulous. In almost less than a minute, he could put the storage boxes in the storage room into his storage bracelet. In less than an hour, Yang Tian put all the storage boxes in the architect's palace into his storage bracelet. For this operation, Yang Tian specially prepared a few empty storage bracelets. No matter how strong a fortress was, it could be broken from the inside. The high priests of the Superstar Divine Temple would never have thought that while they were fighting fiercely with the Temple of Eternal Life, the treasures that the Superstar Divine Temple had accumulated for countless years would be emptied by Yang Tian in less than an hour. After leaving the architect's palace, the little blue dragon returned and told Yang Tian that at the lowest level, many powerhouses had gathered together. The little blue dragon did not observe the situation below in detail. After noticing it, it immediately came to tell Yang Tian. Now that he had obtained the treasures of the Superstar Divine Temple, the only thing left was to take Qin Fei away. After the transformation, the temple's buildings were stacked into dozens of levels. The next level was a stone staircase in the middle. Now that there were no guards patrolling the temple and most of the people did not know each other, Yang Tian openly walked down the stone staircase to the next few levels. As he walked, many cultivators in black armor passed by Yang Tian. Perhaps because they were concerned about the battle outside, no one paid special attention to Yang Tian. Soon, Yang Tian arrived at the lowest level. While walking on the stone staircase, Yang Tian was keenly aware that there were hundreds of powerful auras below. These powerhouses must be the high priests of the Superstar Divine Temple. What made Yang Tian feel strange was that the auras emitted by these high priests were intermittent. After going down to the lowest level, a building that Yang Tian felt unfamiliar with appeared in front of his eyes. This was a building that was about 20 meters tall and was built with blue stone. It was shaped like a lotus. Bursts of energy fluctuations were emitted from inside. Clearly, this was a building that had been previously hidden inside the temple. What was this thing for? When Yang Tian saw this familiar building, he could not help but widen his eyes, his face filled with doubt. He was certain that this place was not used for living. The faintly discernible auras of the powerhouses were coming from inside. Yang Tian was certain that Qin Fei was also inside. Yang Tian, you still came back. Yang Tian was just about to approach this strange building and even go inside to take a look when he heard a familiar voice. High Priest Taiyu. When Yang Tian heard this voice, he could not help but be startled and turn his head around. The person who appeared in front of him was indeed High Priest Taiyu. High Priest Taiyu walked towards Yang Tian with a smile on his face. Yang Tian took off his helmet and smiled at High Priest Taiyu. High Priest, I came back to take a look. High Priest Taiyu walked in front of Yang Tian and said with a smile, this old man knew that the defensive array glyphs outside would not be able to stop you. High Priest, how did you know it was me? Yang Tian asked casually after High Priest Taiyu finished speaking. He was wearing a helmet just now. High Priest Taiyu glanced at the little blue dragon on Yang Tian's shoulder and said, this astral beast in your armor. After saying this, High Priest Taiyu immediately said, follow this old man. After saying this, High Priest Taiyu turned around and walked towards the entrance of the strange building ahead. Yang Tian felt that something was very wrong, but he still obediently followed behind High Priest Taiyu and walked through the square stone door. After passing through the door, they arrived at a winding stone path. The stone path was about 5 meters long and wide, and there was a Superstar Realm cultivator standing guard every 50 meters or so. The security was tight. If not for High Priest Taiyu leading the way, it would have been almost impossible to easily enter. Chapter 594. The passage spiraled from the entrance all the way to the innermost part. Yang Tian followed behind Great Priest Taiyu and walked for 10 minutes before arriving at a spacious stone room. As soon as he entered the room, Yang Tian's eyes were filled with blue. There was a tall altar in the middle of the room. It seemed to be made of blue water and was sparkling and translucent. It emitted a faint blue halo and gave off a dreamy feeling. The altar was also in the shape of a lotus flower. Because it was so high up, Yang Tian couldn't see what was inside. Hong Yujio frowned when he saw Great Priest Taiyu bring Yang Tian in. He knew about the relationship between Yang Tian and the goddess. Great Priest Kaya glanced at Yang Tian and said to Great Priest Taiyu in a dissatisfied tone, "Great Priest Taiyu, why did you bring him in? Don't you know that this matter is very important to the temple?" Great Priest Taiyu glanced at Yang Tian and said with a smile, "It's the biggest mistake to leave him outside. If he's right under our noses, he won't be able to do anything. Isn't that right?" Before Great Priest Taiyu finished speaking, Yang Tian was startled. "Yang Tian, we all know about the relationship between you and the goddess. You'll have to suffer a little." The one who spoke was Great Priest Mei Chun. PFFF. As soon as Great Priest Mei Chun finished speaking, Yang Tian jumped up and pounced toward the altar. He didn't need a guess to know that Qin Fei was inside. Yang Tian didn't want Qin Fei to become a sacrifice for the superstar divinity temple. However, while his body was still in the air, he was suddenly bound by a powerful force. Even the little blue dragon on his shoulder couldn't move. Yang Tian, who was bound, was pulled back and smashed onto the ground with a bang. During this process, Yang Tian saw Qin Fei lying in the middle of the flower-shaped altar. She was wearing a white dress, and her hands were crossed on her chest. Her eyes were closed, and her expression was serene as if she was sleeping. You, what do you want?" After landing, Yang Tian gritted his teeth as he struggled with all his might. Great Priest Mei Chun was restraining Yang Tian. Although Great Priest Mei Chun's power was not as strong as Tian Hun's, it still made it difficult for Yang Tian and the little blue dragon to move and attack. High Priest Kaya looked at Yang Tian and said calmly, "Yang Tian, don't worry. The Divine Daughter will be fine. She will become very powerful. Do you know why we are called priests and not priests? Because us old fellows are the real sacrificial offerings." After High Priest Kaya finished speaking, Yang Tian was stunned. What did that mean? Seeing Yang Tian's puzzled expression, Hong Yujio said calmly, "You don't have to think too much. You will understand in a while." After Hong Yujio finished speaking, he said to the other high priests, "There is not much time left. Let's begin." Then hundreds of high priests walked to the front of the altar and surrounded it. Yang Tian looked around and noticed that there were a total of 108 great shamans present. Yang Tian had seen most of the high priests before. Although he did not know their names, they looked familiar. Other than Great Priest Mei Chun, who was looking at Yang Tian, the other high priests around the altar closed their eyes and began to chant something that Yang Tian could not understand. It sounded like a ballad. Amidst the buzzing sounds, the altar gradually lit up and bright runes flashed on it. The strange thing was that these runes actually slowly floated out of the altar and rose to the top of the altar, forming a spiral pattern that looked like a galaxy. During this process, powerful energy waves were emitted. Goddess Shi Chun, who was standing on the observatory far away, felt the energy waves and smiled. Things were developing according to her plan. When she looked at the cultivators fighting in front of her, a trace of pity flashed in her eyes. However, she quickly hid this emotion. After calming herself down, Goddess Shi Chan said, "Black Talisman Lord, let's begin." Black Talisman Lord, who was controlling the devouring bug, nodded and urged it to charge toward the superstar divine temple. Although the devouring bug was huge, its speed was extremely fast. It swung its tail and suddenly accelerated. In the blink of an eye, it had traveled dozens of kilometers. At this speed, it would not take more than 3 minutes for the devouring bug to collide with the superstar divine temple. Between the Temple of Eternal Life and the superstar divine temple was a huge battlefield. After an intense battle, the area was littered with the broken corpses of cultivators. In less than 2 hours, more than 70% of the cultivators had died in this starfield. Most of the dead cultivators were cultivators who had been modified. If they had known this would happen, they would not have accepted the modification. As it moved forward, the devouring worm opened its mouth and sucked countless severed limbs into its mouth. Black Talisman Lord did not stop the devouring bug. He was looking forward to the devouring bug's performance. Seeing the huge devouring bug charging toward them, the cultivators who were fighting between the two temples dodged to the side. At this point in the battle, the superstar realm cultivators of the two temples had nothing to do with them. After dodging, they calmed down from the slaughter and ignored the protectors. They scattered and fled into the distance. On the Temple of Eternal Life side, Gao Yuan swung his saber and released saber energy that killed dozens of Temple of Eternal Life soldiers who were trying to escape. Such a sharp massacre did not frighten anyone. Thousands of soldiers continued to flee in a frenzy. Just as he was about to swing his saber again and slash out a space of annihilation so that the escaping soldiers would walk right into the trap, Grand Duke Hong stopped him and said, "Gao Yuan, forget it. Lady Goddess is about to achieve her goal. Let them go." "All right." Gao Yuan frowned and nodded. On the Superstar God Temple's side, the protectors also retreated. Great Priest Empty God looked at the devouring bug and sneered, "Everyone, it's time for us to attack." With that, Great Priest Empty God raised his hand and waved it forward. The hundreds of great star lords and great star gods behind him all moved and charged toward the devouring bug. The Superstar God Temple sent out their strongest forces, but the Temple of Eternal Life did not move. The devouring bug had grown to its current level, and its ability was terrifying. According to Goddess Shi Chen's plan, this terrifying devouring bug could kill more than half of the enemies. When it was still thousands of kilometers away from the Superstar God Temple, the Temple of Eternal Life on the devouring bug's back broke away. Without the Temple of Eternal Life's interference, the devouring bug suddenly sped up. In the process of moving at high speed, this big guy swallowed a large number of Superstar Realm cultivators' corpses and obtained enough energy to transform again. It should be known that most Superstar Realm cultivators had undergone modifications, and the original cells in their body cells had not been fully released. When these people became corpses and were eaten by the devouring bug, it benefited the devouring bug. Black Talisman Lord, who was standing on the devouring bug's head, knew that the talisman artifact that had been injected into the devouring bug's body could no longer control it, so he immediately left the devouring bug and returned to the Temple of Eternal Life. Goo. Without Black Talisman Lord's restraint, the devouring bug stared at the hundreds of people in front of it and let out an excited cry. To it, these people were fresh food. When they were still hundreds of kilometers away from the devouring bug, the hundreds of powerhouses from the Superstar God Temple suddenly stopped and spread out, forming an arc formation to meet the devouring bug. As soon as the formation was formed, the hundreds of powerhouses released the most powerful attack of their lives at the same time and swept toward the devouring bug. This kind of attack energy gathered together formed an extremely wide range of spatial annihilation, which was enough to engulf the devouring bug's huge body. In the face of this destructive attack, the devouring bug opened its mouth and spat out. The space in front of it was immediately compressed, forming an extremely solid spatial energy wall. When the spatial annihilation came into contact with this wall, it actually split into two and slid to the sides, charging into the distance. Such a powerful attack had been neutralized by the devouring bug. The powerhouses from a Superstar God Temple could not help but widen their eyes. Chapter 595. The space annihilation, which had been split into two, swept into the distance at an extremely fast speed. Many people and spaceships who were watching the battle from the periphery were instantly swept in and silently turned into space particles, becoming the sacrificial lambs of this battle. After resolving this attack, the devouring bug let out an angry and strange cry. Then its huge body moved and accelerated again, rushing toward the cultivators in front of it. In a few blinks of an eye, the devouring bug was less than 100 kilometers away from the powerhouses of the Superstar Divinity Temple. During this process, the fleshy feelers next to the devouring bug's mouth stretched out like lightning, forming a huge net of flesh that covered the cultivators in front of it. What was surprising was that these golden, fleshy feelers could actually pass through space, forming layers of afterimages as they stretched out rapidly. At first glance, the fleshy feelers were still dozens of kilometers away, but in the blink of an eye, they were already in front of them. At the same time, strange energy waves were emitted from the devouring bug's body, forming a strange domain within dozens of kilometers of its body. This ability could only be used by great star divinity realm powerhouses. The fact that the devouring bug could create a domain meant that it had become a great star divinity realm beast in a short period of time. The cultivators of the superstar divinity temple could no longer launch a joint attack because they were no longer united. Facing this behemoth, deep fear had already appeared in their hearts. Facing the incoming fleshy feelers, they all dodged extremely quickly, but the space had become extremely rigid. The cultivators who were close suddenly found that they had fallen into a swamp. The cultivators of a divine hall who were major star lords couldn't even move. It seemed that the golden fleshy feelers were about to form a circle and surround their slower companions. Break! All of a sudden, a red-robed high priest appeared, roared, and slashed out with a saber. A powerful sword aura was emitted from a blade. This slash looked like it had cut open space, forming a pitch-black stripe that rolled toward the countless fleshy feelers in front of it. This fierce slash indeed cut off the fleshy feelers, leaving a gap. However, soon after, it quickly grew out from where the flesh tentacle was cut off. Like a tree root, it once again spread out. The worm had a huge appetite. It intended to devour dozens of Star Lords. Seeing this, the red-robed high priest was shocked. He raised his blade again and slashed out. The same thing happened again. Although the tentacles were easy to cut, they seemed to be able to extend indefinitely. It was like a long thread, and only a short part of it was cut off. This would give people the illusion that there was no end to the fleshy tentacles. The red-robed great priest was not the only one who attacked. The other great priests also attacked the fleshy tentacles. Some people desperately tried to cut off the tentacles, but even more people came to the sides and back of the devouring insect and attacked it. Only then did they realize that the big guy's body was indestructible. It was like a solid, high-hardness alloy. When the attacks of the great star God realm powerhouses landed on its body, they could only form a hole that was a dozen or so meters wide. The devouring insect was so huge that this kind of damage could not even be considered a wound. It was just like a scratch on the surface of a human skin. The devouring insect's recovery ability was also shocking. After being wounded, it would instantly recover. From the looks of it, it was as if the attack launched by a great star God realm expert had been discounted. Under these circumstances, the superstar God Temple's cultivators would not hold back. They wanted to immediately kill the powerful exotic beast in front of them, so they all used their full strength. The reason why this was happening was because the devouring insect had a powerful domain around its body. The space around its body had been frozen, and most of the energy that was attacking it had been used up by this defense. Even the great star God realm's space annihilation could not do much damage when it hit the devouring insect. Under these circumstances, they could not work together to attack it again. Just as the tentacles were about to close together into a giant meatball, High Priest Empty God, who had been standing still, finally made his move. In a flash, he appeared on top of the devouring insect's head. He flipped in the air and rushed down with his head facing down. He punched toward the devouring insect's head near its neck. Bang! It was a loud sound. The destructive power of High Priest Empty God's attack was something that other great star God realm cultivators could not compare to. This was because when High Priest Empty God attacked, his realm had broken through the great star God realm in a short period of time and reached a new realm. After a loud sound, High Priest Empty God's punch penetrated the devouring insect's head, and a hole with a diameter of dozens of meters appeared. The reason why High Priest Empty God did not move was because he was observing the devouring insect. This attack was what he estimated to be the devouring insect's weakness. Roar! This attack caused great damage to the devouring insect. It opened its mouth and let out a painful howl. Naturally, it retracted its tentacles. At the same time, the surrounding spatial energy fluctuated unstably. The trapped cultivators took this opportunity to quickly escape and stay far away. Seeing this, Goddess Shi Chun frowned. To her, the only variable in her plan was High Priest Empty God. Many years ago, High Priest Empty God was already at the peak of the Great Star God realm. If he consumed a part of He Luoyang's body cells, he might be able to break through to the Great Star God realm. The Temple of Eternal Life naturally had powerful Great Star Gods as well. However, even if they consumed He Luoyang's body cells, they could not compare to High Priest Empty God. It should be known that in this universe, the highest level of life that could exist was a Great Star God realm life form. If one did not have good control of energy, even if they broke through to the Great Star God realm, they would not be able to exert power beyond the Great Star God realm. However, an old monster like High Priest Empty God could. At this time, Goddess Shi Chun had no choice but to act personally. She was the only one who could fight against High Priest Empty God. The devouring insect suffered great damage. It howled in pain and rolled around in the void. High Priest Empty God was about to attack and kill the devouring insect when he saw a figure appear in front of him. Whoosh! A fierce attack came. High Priest Empty God's figure flashed and dodged the attack. After stopping, High Priest Empty God looked at Shi Chun Yu, who was hovering in the distance, and said with a cold smile, "Shi Chun, you finally can't take it anymore." Shi Chun Yu ignored High Priest Empty God. She stared at High Priest Empty God and narrowed her eyes. In an instant, a powerful spirit power swept toward High Priest Empty God. The spirit power was extremely powerful. It gave High Priest Empty God the feeling that it was as if countless planets were forming a river and rushing toward him. Faced with such a spirit power, High Priest Empty God did not dare to stay any longer. He moved and tore open space and disappeared from where he was. Goddess Shi Chun's expression did not change as she suddenly disappeared as well. Boom! When the two of them reappeared, they were already tens of thousands of kilometers away. A gaseous planet was shattered by High Priest Empty God's palm. The powerful explosion created a powerful shockwave that caused the empty gods around them to distort. Goddess Shi Chun, who was hiding in the empty gods, was forced out. She appeared behind High Priest Empty God and slammed her palm toward High Priest Empty God. The palm looked ordinary, but there was an extremely powerful spatial power that pressed down on High Priest Empty God. High Priest Empty God had no choice but to quickly dodge. Goddess Shi Chun suddenly pulled back her palm. The spatial power that was pressing down on him was pulled back, and the shockwave from the planet's explosion was pulled back. Chapter 596. The destructive power of the battle between the two ultimate powerhouses was simply too great. The gigantic devouring bug paled in comparison to the battle between the two. The people who came to watch the battle were so frightened that they immediately distanced themselves as far away as possible. They were afraid that they would be affected by the battle between the two. Otherwise, they would end up in a worse state than those who had come before. The Shi Chun goddess and the empty god high priest seemed to be on par in terms of cultivation realm and battle strength. The victor should not be decided in a short period of time. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the cultivators of the Temple of Eternal Life finally made their move and rushed toward the Superstar Divine Temple. The cultivators of the Superstar Divine Temple also immediately went to meet them. The devouring bug suffered a great deal of damage. After a painful struggle, it suddenly stopped moving, as if it had died. The light on its body also dimmed. From afar, the gigantic devouring bug looked like a meteor floating in the universe. However, the life aura it exuded did not weaken at all. It was obvious that this big guy had entered a short period of hibernation to recover its damaged body. The cultivators of the Superstar Divine Temple wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to completely eliminate the devouring bug, but the people of the Temple of Eternal Life rushed over. They had few people to begin with, so they had no choice but to mobilize all of them. They could only temporarily put the devouring bug aside. In the sacrificial chamber, Yang Tian did not give up struggling even when High Priest Mei Chun took out a projector to show the situation outside. When Yang Tian saw the empty god High Priest display his might and severely injure the devouring bug, he thought that the superstar divine temple had a chance of winning. They would not continue this sacrificial ritual that he found strange and would injure the high priest at the same time, would they? However, the great shamans didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. They were still chanting incantations from their mouths, and they didn't stop at all. Some time had already passed, and the spiraling runes floating above the altar were getting clearer and clearer. The strange program told Yang Tian that there were many types of runes. When they were grouped together, it looked like a teleportation formation disk, but it also looked like a type of energy transmission device. Because Yang Tian was unable to see a portion of it clearly, the strange program was unable to calculate the function of this rune array within a short period of time. The battle outside had already reached its final stage. Yang Tian saw some of the high priests he was familiar with being besieged and killed in the endless starry sky. Many of the Eternal Temple's experts had also perished. Most of these people had lived for tens of thousands of years. It was not easy for them to grow from ordinary cultivators to their current level. However, in such a battle, they had all died. Was it worth it? Why was that? More questions appeared in Yang Tian's mind at that moment. Can't you just sit down and have a good talk and solve all the problems peacefully? They insisted on fighting to the death. Even if we win in the end, both sides will suffer. Yang Tian finally couldn't help but ask calmly. However, High Priest Mei Chun said, Yang Tian, you're saying this because you're still outside the circle and don't understand everything. Great Shaman, please tell me about it. Yang Tian said. High Priest Mei Chun glanced at his companions who were concentrating on the ceremony, walked over and sat in front of Yang Tian and said, the Superstar Divinity Temple represents the conservative side of the universe. On the other hand, Goddess Shichin's Temple of Eternal Life represents the radical side. After saying that, High Priest Mei Chun looked at Yang Tian's puzzled look and asked Yang Tian with a smile, if the planet you're on has always been a closed environment with no contact with the outside world, the people on the planet do not know the outside world. The humans on this planet don't know about the outside world. At the same time, your strength is very weak. Are you willing to let it appear on the star map at this time? The situation described by High Priest Mei Chun was exactly the same as the situation on Earth. Facing this question, Yang Tian shook his head. Of course not. If it appears on the star map, the humans on our planet will definitely be enslaved. After Yang Tian finished speaking, High Priest Mei Chun nodded and said with a smile, it seems that you also belong to our conservative faction. Our universe is actually a sealed world. It has no direct connection with the outside world. Hulua Yangli accidentally broke into this place and took Shichun away from this world, allowing Shichun to see a completely different world. After Shichun returned, she had an idea in her heart. She wanted to connect this universe to the outside world and become the first pioneer of this universe. At that time, the high priest of the temple discovered her idea and had to stop her. Perhaps even she herself did not know the true purpose of Hulua Yangli. Perhaps even if she knew, she would think that she was right. Hulua Yangli wanted to become our god. After saying that, High Priest Mei Chun pointed at Yang Tian's chest. Yang Tian could not help but be startled. Although he did not say explicitly, Yang Tian still understood what High Priest Mei Chun meant. At this time, Yang Tian thought of his original realm. The energy world in his body was too similar to the universe world. Hulua Yangli wanted to become the god of this universe. Did she want to incorporate this universe world into her body? Let this universe world become her energy world? This could be done? Seeing Yang Tian's constantly changing expression, High Priest Mei Chun nodded and knew that Yang Tian had already guessed some of it. He said, therefore, we will not allow her to do that. Although this is just our guess, we won't allow it to happen. Yang Tian thought for a while and said, Goddess Shi Chun is such a smart person. She should understand this principle, right? What substantial benefit does this bring to her? High Priest Mei Chun shook his head. Only Shi Chun herself will understand this. She has always been thinking about resurrecting He Luo Yangli. Many years ago, she began a plot. She used the means of that world to put herself into a deep sleep and use time to destroy the most powerful enemy. Now, she has finally forced us into a desperate situation. Impossible, Yang Tian said. Goddess, Shi Chen hasn't been in deep sleep for long, right? For example, when people like Gao Yuan and Grand Dukong were working in the Superstar Divine Temple, Shi Chun was already a goddess. After Yang Tian finished speaking, High Priest Mei Chun said, the people who participated in that battle were all hit by He Luo Yangli's time law. Otherwise, the older generation of high priests would still be in charge of the Superstar Divine Temple. Who is that man in black? The one riding the bluebird. Yang Tian asked again. High Priest Mei Chun said, he is one of the first high priests of the Superstar Divine Temple. We don't know his name. We only know that there's a group of people who silently guard this world. We also call them guardians or overseers. There was a saying that the more you know, the more ignorant you will find yourself. That was what Yang Tian was feeling right now. Some of the doubts in his heart had finally been answered. However, more questions appeared in his mind. This question even made Yang Tian begin to doubt the way this world existed. For example, when Yang Tian was studying on Earth, he thought that the world humans lived in was illusory. All objects, life, everything was a program running in an advanced computer. Many questions appeared at the same time, making Yang Tian feel his head swell. He had to give up thinking and said to High Priest Mei Chun, what do you want to do with Xiao Fei? High Priest Mei Chun said, you will know soon. Yang Tian, you are very lucky to be able to see such a big scene at such a young age. Chapter 597. Yang Tian's heart was unable to calm down for a long time. He did not know when, but Great Priest Mei Chun had released the restrictions on his mind. When he saw that the little blue dragon had regained its ability to move and was about to rush into the altar, Yang Tian finally came back to his senses. Even if he knew a lot of things, Yang Tian would not allow anything to happen to Qin Fei since he was on the Superstar Divinity Temple side. At most, after saving Qin Fei, he would once again consume those special cells and work with Great Priest Kong Shun to defeat Goddess Shi Chun. Right now, he had to save Qin Fei. Boom! Just as Yang Tian was about to make his move, there was a loud bang, and the ground shook violently. From the projection, it could be seen that other than Goddess Shi Chun and Great Priest Kong Shun, who were missing, the cultivators from the Temple of Eternal Life were already close to the temple. With the rune's energy blocking, the cultivators from the Temple of Eternal Life could not break in, so they began to attack the rune's energy defense. After the loud bang, there was another series of attacks. The gigantic spaceship formed by the temple began to tremble. Even so, the great priests around the altar still had their eyes closed as they calmly chanted the incantation. At this time, it could be seen that the runes above the altar were even brighter, and they were spinning faster and faster. A blue light was projected from these runes and shone on Qin Fei, who was at the center of the altar. As for the high priests, their bodies were also surrounded by blue runes that suddenly appeared. Yang Tian, you can't stop it now. If you want to destroy the ritual, Her Highness will die. If you don't believe me, you can give it a try. After Great Priest Mei Chun finished speaking to Yang Tian, he threw the little blue dragon in his hand to Yang Tian. Then, he joined the others in chanting the incantation. For Great Priest Mei Chun, his task of guarding Yang Tian was completed. Yang Tian looked at the altar and the great shamans whose expressions were getting more and more solemn. His emotions were extremely complicated. Although he didn't fully believe High Priest Mei Chen's words, he didn't dare to stop such a ceremony. He could only watch helplessly, unable to do anything. Unknowingly, Shi Chun Yu and Archpriest Kong Shun had already traveled hundreds of light years through countless spatial transformations and pursuits. At this moment, the battle between Shi Chun Yu and Archpriest Kong Shun was about to come to an end. After such a long battle, the two of them had consumed a lot of energy. Compared to before, their combat strength was much weaker. The two of them had not been fighting in the star field for long, but they had destroyed hundreds of planets and a huge star. This was originally a star field that was worth developing, but now it had turned dark. In the universe, the existence of every planet was the result of the natural evolution of the universe. After a planet, especially a star, was destroyed, the surrounding space would change, creating a chain reaction. The results of such changes could not be seen in a short period of time, but after a long time, it might evolve into a disaster that could destroy the entire galaxy. Although they understood this point, they couldn't care less. Boom! The two of them flashed and collided with each other again. The violent collision of energy bounced the two of them away. Between them, the center of the collision of energy quickly formed a space collapse. It was a black dot. As soon as it appeared, it created a powerful attractive force that sucked in all the matter in the universe nearby. When this happened before, the dot would disappear in a flash. However, the strange thing was that this time, the black dot kept on getting bigger and bigger, and the attractive force became stronger as well. It was like a black hole. Almost in an instant, the black hole became the size of a soccer ball. In the blink of an eye, it became a black hole with a diameter of dozens of meters. As it kept on getting bigger, the attractive force also increased exponentially. Shi Chun Goddess and Archpriest Kong Shun, who had just separated, were attracted by this powerful attractive force. Their bodies flew toward the black hole uncontrollably. Archpriest Kong Shun was shocked and wanted to break through space to escape. However, the nearby space and time were already distorted. As soon as the broken Archpriest Kong Shun's tunnel was formed, he disappeared before he could escape. Left with no choice, Archpriest Kong Shun could only use all his power to unleash a powerful attack on the black hole. However, in this short period of time, the black hole expanded several times and became a true bottomless pit. The power of Archpriest Kong Shun's attack was absorbed by the black hole. A helpless smile appeared on Archpriest Kong Shun's face. To him, there was nothing else he could do. As he flew toward the black hole, Archpriest Kong Shun glanced at his surroundings. Because space and time were distorted, Archpriest Kong Shun could not see Shi Chun Goddess. However, he guessed that Shi Chun Yu's fate must be the same as his. In this universe, the only thing that great astral gods could not touch was the black hole. Just as he was about to enter the black hole, Archpriest Kong Shun remembered when he was young, the first time he saw Shi Chun Yu, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Archpriest Kong Shun entered the black hole, but Shi Chun Yu did not. At this critical moment, a rune artifact that looked like a compass appeared in her hand. She pressed a button on the rune artifact and threw it toward the black hole. During this process, the rune artifact released powerful rune energy and formed a normal space and time in a certain area. Shi Chun Yu's figure flashed and entered the space and time created by the rune artifact. In the next moment, when she reappeared, she was already millions of kilometers away. As soon as she appeared, the black hole exploded and created a powerful spatial annihilation. The spatial annihilation spread out in all directions at a speed close to the speed of light. In a few seconds, it approached Shi Chun Yu. At the edge of the spatial annihilation, Shi Chun Yu kept retreating. During this process, she realized that the power of the spatial annihilation was rapidly weakening, and she breathed a sigh of relief. In fact, she was the one who had created this black hole. She had used the method of the outside world. In order to get rid of Archpriest Kong Shun, Shi Chun Yu had taken a risk and almost lost her own life. In less than 3 minutes, the spatial annihilation disappeared. The star sector that had been destroyed by her and Great Priest Empty God was now completely empty. There was nothing left. For Shi Chun Yu, the only variable had been removed by her. The next step was the final step. She did not know if the people from the Superstar Divine Temple were ready. Looking in the direction of the Superstar Divine Temple, Shichen Yuyu smiled faintly and disappeared from this star sector. In the sacrificial chamber, the ceremony had reached its final moment. Following the continuous chanting, the energy fluctuations on the great priest's bodies weakened rapidly. The power of time also appeared on their bodies at the same time. In less than a minute, all the great priests had become extremely old. It was as if they had experienced tens of thousands of years in an instant. During this process, their life auras also became weaker and weaker. Yang Tian could not help but shout, "Hurry up and stop. Otherwise, you'll all die." This was Yang Tian's instinctive shout. These great priests did not have any enmity with Yang Tian. When he was in the Superstar Divine Temple, other than Archpriest Kong Shun, these people were all very good to Yang Tian. Yang Tian naturally did not want them to die like this. However, no one paid attention to Yang Tian. Outside the altar, there was a powerful rune energy. Yang Tian wanted to stop it, but he was powerless. Boom! Suddenly, there was another tremor. At the same time, there was the sound of the most violent explosion. Yang Tian knew that the Superstar Divine Temple's energy defense had been breached. At this time, the great priests had finally completed the ceremony. They all fell weakly to the ground. Luckily, they were not dead. However, the runes above the altar were still circling and releasing energy toward the center of the altar. Chapter 598. The great priests had already stopped. Where did this energy come from? Yang Tian looked at the rune array and saw that the great priests who had fallen to the ground had no strength at all. He quickly went forward and took out Star Warrior level beast cores from his storage bracelet and fed them to them. The great priests' bodies had become very weak, so Yang Tian did not dare to feed them higher level beast cores. At this time, the people of the Temple of Eternal Life had already rushed into the temple. The sound of fighting could already be heard outside. However, most of the people who stayed in the temple were low-level cultivators. When they saw the great star god powerhouses of the Temple of Eternal Life, many of them chose to surrender. Yang Tian took out a saber from his storage bracelet and used it to block the entrance. The little blue dragon lying on Yang Tian's shoulder was also staring coldly at the entrance, ready to fight at any time. After a few sounds of fighting came from outside, the guarding here were quickly killed. A moment later, a person carrying a large knife walked in. It was Gao Yuan. Ha ha ha. After seeing Yang Tian, Gao Yuan laughed loudly, looking very happy. However, Yang Tian did not laugh, because Gao Yuan might be an enemy to him now. Seeing Yang Tian's vigilant look, Gao Yuan said, "Kid, how long has it been? Don't you recognize me?" "Of course I do. You." For a moment, Yang Tian did not know what to say. Yang Tian did not expect that the first person to come in would be Gao Yuan. Gao Yuan had done him a favor, but he could not let them in at this time. Firstly, he was afraid that they would disturb Qin Fei. Secondly, he did not want the great priest to be hurt. "Forget it. I won't make things difficult for you." Gao Yuan put down the knife on his shoulder and stabbed it into the ground. He turned around and looked behind him. A series of heavy footsteps sounded, and a group of Temple of Eternal Life soldiers in silver-white armor appeared. When the group of soldiers reached the entrance, Gao Yuan raised his hand. The group of soldiers stopped and stood on both sides of the passage. Soon, Shi Chun, who was wearing a black dress, walked over quietly. Behind her was a large number of great star god realm cultivators. If the high priests of the Superstar God Temple had not been drained of their energy because of this strange ritual, there would have been a fierce battle. But now, the Superstar Divine Temple seemed to have been completely defeated. When Shi Chun saw Yang Tian blocking the entrance, he smiled faintly and walked towards Yang Tian. She only stopped when she was one step away from Yang Tian. For cultivators, this was an ambiguous distance. Yang Tian could smell the faint fragrance coming from Shi Chen's body. Although Yang Tian held the saber, he did not move because he knew that with his current strength, it was impossible to defeat Shichen Yuyu. Great Priest Kong Shun did not return. so he was either seriously injured or dead. Yang Tian, get out of the way. I promised you that I would not hurt your woman. Shichen glanced behind Yang Tian and said faintly. Yang Tian said faintly, you also have to promise that you will not hurt the great priest and the others. Shichen nodded with a smile and replied straightforwardly, all right. Such a straightforward answer left Yang Tian at a loss for what to do. While he was hesitating, the altar behind Yang Tian changed. Qin Fei, who had been sleeping, finally woke up. When she opened her eyes, a powerful energy fluctuation erupted from her body. Soon, Qin Fei, who was sitting cross-legged, flew into the air. A light flashed between her eyebrows and a red dot appeared. It looked like a large beauty mark or an eye. Qin Fei looked dignified and holy at the moment. However, her eyes seemed a little dazed. When Yang Tian saw Qin Fei's current appearance, he was stunned for a moment before calling out softly, "Little Fei." When she heard Yang Tian's voice, Qin Fei's eyes became clear as if she had recognized Yang Tian. But in an instant, she became dazed again. Goddess Shi Chun and a large group of people behind her rushed into the sacrificial chamber and suddenly prostrated themselves on the ground. Goddess Shi Chun was more respectful than anyone else. After bowing, she said a lot of words that Yang Tian could not understand. Not long after, Qin Fei closed her eyes and suddenly disappeared from the sacrificial chamber. Along with her, the talisman array that was floating above her head disappeared as well. A look of excitement appeared on Shi Chen's face. He stood up and looked up. Boom! Shi Chen Yu used her powerful spiritual power and blasted a hole with a diameter of dozens of meters in the sacrificial chamber. Then, she disappeared as well. The elites from the Temple of Eternal Life that came with Shi Chen Yu immediately rushed out of the hole and followed Shi Chen Yu. Yang Tian looked at the archpriests. Seeing that they were fine, he immediately jumped up and rushed out of the hole above them. After coming out of the giant spaceship that the Superstar Divinity Temple had transformed into, Yang Tian immediately saw that was emitting blue light in the distance. The elites from the Temple of Eternal Life were chasing after this dot. Yang Tian immediately moved and followed them. After a few minutes, the blue dot finally stopped. When he got closer, Yang Tian realized that the blue dot was Qin Fei. This was actually within his expectations. Qin Fei was now standing quietly in the void with her eyes closed and a faint smile on her face. Behind her was a talisman array that was constantly spinning. This made Qin Fei look like Guanyin. That's right, she was Guanyin. In China's ancient myths, Guanyin appeared in front of people's eyes in this manner. In all the movies and dramas that Yang Tian had seen, there had never been an actress who could act out Guanyin's appearance so realistically. At this time, Yang Tian felt like he was going crazy. Outside Qin Fei's body, the spatial energy was constantly fluctuating, making her seem unreal. Even Shi Chun Yu, who had surpassed the great star god level, could not get close to her at this time. Xiao Fei, Yang Tian used his spiritual power to call out to the current Qin Fei, hoping that Qin Fei would remember him. The previous situation made Yang Tian realize that Qin Fei no longer remembered him. It was as if another person's soul had appeared in Qin Fei's body. However, no matter how Yang Tian called out to her, Qin Fei ignored him. Chirp! At this time, a clear chirp of a bird could be heard from afar. As soon as it heard this sound, the little blue dragon on Yang Tian's shoulder opened its eyes wide and looked in the direction of the sound. The one who came was the mysterious masked man in black. Under his feet was a huge green bird. When the little blue dragon saw this green bird, it was very excited. What surprised Yang Tian was that as soon as the masked man in black arrived, he simply raised his hand and slapped toward Qin Fei. At this moment, a black line was released from his hand and rolled toward Qin Fei. This black line did not emit a strong energy fluctuation, but it easily pierced through the distorted space around Qin Fei's body. Just as this black line was about to wrap around Qin Fei suddenly opened her eyes. A blue light flashed in her eyes, and the black line that was attacking her disappeared into thin air. After his attack failed, The masked man in black shook his head. The green bird under his feet took a deep look at the little blue dragon on Yang Tian's shoulder, then turned around and disappeared in a flash. The expression of the masked man in black seemed to be very disappointed. At this time, when Yang Tian saw Shi Chen's gloomy face, his expression relaxed. When the masked man in black arrived just now, she seemed very nervous. As soon as the masked man in black left, Qin Fei's body emitted a faint blue halo. 1,000 meters in front of her, a big black hole appeared. As soon as this black hole appeared, Qin Fei raised her hand and pointed. Around this black hole, countless blue dots appeared. Yang Tian suddenly felt that Qin Fei was about to leave him. He could not help but reach out his hand to Qin Fei and shouted, "Little Fei, don't go." Qin Fei turned around and glanced at Yang Tian. A complicated expression flashed across her eyes. She then smiled and turned into a blue light as she charged into the black hole. Chapter 599. This passageway must be a passageway to another world. When it appeared, Shi Chen's eyes were filled with pleasant surprise. To her, her goal had been achieved. Entering this passageway would bring her to another world. From then on, this universe would be connected to the other world. Cultivators in this universe could enter the other world. Of course, cultivators from the other world could also enter this universe through this passageway. Looking at the pitch-black entrance in front of him, Yang Tian felt heartache. Because Qin Fei had disappeared again, and this time, she had lost her memory. Yang Tian, you have contributed greatly to the success of this matter. Follow us into that new world. This is also a kind of reward for you. Shi Chen looked at Yang Tian's sad appearance and said with a smile. As he said this, Shi Chen's face was filled with a sense of accomplishment. However, Yang Tian shook his head and said indifferently, "You guys go. I will definitely go to the other side of the world, but not now." Shi Chen shook his head. Without the mighty sky worship, even a great star god would be crushed by the spatial energy in the passageway. For you, this is your only chance. What Shi Chen didn't know was that Yang Tian could also build the mighty sky warship, and the quality of a new warship would definitely be better than the current one. Therefore, Yang Tian wasn't worried about this problem at all. Staring at Shi Chen's eyes, Yang Tian said, "Before you leave, I want to ask a few questions." While the two were talking, Black Talisman Lord had already steered the mighty sky warship over. "Speak." Shi Chen glanced at the rapidly approaching warship and nodded. Yang Tian said in a questioning tone, "Once this passageway is opened, the powerhouses from the other world can smoothly come to this universe. I know that Luoyang is just an ordinary cultivator in that world. Ordinary humans from that world can become supreme powerhouses when they come to this world. Don't tell me you really don't care about the creatures in this universe?" Shi Chen said faintly, "You're afraid that cultivators from another world will come to this world and enslave the humans of this world, right?" Yang Tian nodded and frowned. "We're not ready yet." Shi Chen shook his head faintly. "Yang Tian, don't underestimate the cultivators of this world. Even if something like that really happened, it would only be a short period of pain. You're also a cultivator. When you enter the great star god realm, you will understand that without this passage, the following time will be a kind of torture." Yang Tian suddenly felt that he should not have brought up this issue at all. He now had different opinions from Shi Chen Yuyu. After Shi Chen finished speaking, Yang Tian asked again, "Why did Xiao Fei become like this?" This was what Yang Tian was most concerned about. Shi Chen said faintly, "They used the talisman formation to allow the experts of the ancient times to descend upon the goddess. Although such experts do not have a complete consciousness, they have incomparably powerful abilities. Even the supervisor cannot defeat her." After Shi Chen goddess finished speaking, Yang Tian understood everything. However, what puzzled him was that those high priests of the superstar god temple, since they were against connecting to another world, why did they do this? This was equivalent to indirectly helping Shi Chen Yuyu. Seeing Yang Tian's puzzled look, Shi Chen Yuyu knew what Yang Tian was thinking. He smiled and said, You can ask them the rest of the questions. Since you've given up, I can only say goodbye to you. I hope that one day we can meet in another world." After Shi Chan finished speaking, he brought people to board the Mighty Sky warship. The Mighty Sky warship accelerated in the void and quickly turned into a ray of light and rushed into the passage. After this passage was formed, it had expanded many times. Now, its diameter had reached tens of kilometers. It quietly floated in space like a black mirror. At the edge of this black mirror, there was a circle of blue light spots. It was the existence of these light spots that maintained the existence of this spatial passage. This spatial passage couldn't be allowed to exist. Yang Tian came from Earth, so he naturally understood that if this passage remained open, it would simply be a disaster for the beings of another world to come to this universe. Yang Tian stood in front of the spatial tunnel. He raised his hand and blasted his strongest attack at the spatial tunnel. However, when his power approached the spatial passage, it seemed to have entered a bottomless pit and disappeared without a trace. "It's useless." Yang Tian gritted his teeth and was about to blast out a second palm when a familiar voice sounded behind him. "High Priest Taiyu." Yang Tian turned around. The one who spoke was High Priest Taiyu. In addition to High Priest Taiyu, the other high priests had also arrived. Compared to before, the high priest's expressions were much better. Yang Tian frowned and said, "The existence of this passage is also thanks to all of you. What do you think we should do now?" To be honest, Yang Tian couldn't bring himself to be angry when he saw how powerless the high priests were. High Priest Taiyu smiled wryly. "Shichen is indeed powerful. I didn't expect her to be able to break through our will. We miscalculated and did her a great favor." After High Priest Taiyu finished speaking, Yang Tian recalled what Goddess Shichen had said in the sacrificial chamber. That language definitely didn't exist in this universe. Yang Tian thought for a moment and said, "That's not right. You should have known Shichen's goal in attacking the shrine, right?" When Yang Tian asked this question, High Priest Kaya stepped forward and said to Yang Tian, "Yes, we already knew that Shichen wanted to use our method to open this spatial passage. Although she obtained the Mighty Sky warship, without this spatial passage, she wouldn't have been able to enter the other world. Otherwise, that warship wouldn't have survived until now. You were gambling and you lost." Yang Tian sighed and shook his head. Hong Yuja nodded. "In our plan, the powerful warrior's consciousness wouldn't stay in the goddess body for too long. Once the powerful warrior's consciousness was gone, the goddess would gain great power." Yang Tian understood. This was just like the legendary god summoning on Earth. What the high priest didn't expect was that the god would leave as soon as he arrived. Shichen Yu had tricked him into leaving. Now that he thought about it, it was like a joke. As soon as High Priest Kaya finished speaking, a powerful ripple of energy came from the spatial passage. Buzzing, a muffled sound rang out, and then a huge beast head stretched out from the pitch-black spatial tunnel. The beast head was triangular and yellow. In the middle of its forehead was a single red eye. There were two bulges on the sides of its mouth that looked like air sacs. The buzzing sound just now came from the air sacs on the sides of its mouth. This was an alien beast that had surpassed the astral god realm. It stretched its head out to take a look at this world. Then, it rushed out of the spatial tunnel. It was a beast that was about 100 meters long, and it looked like a pterosaur. Because its realm had surpassed the limit of what this universe could withstand. As soon as it appeared, the space around it began to ripple and become unstable. The high priests reacted quickly. They mobilized the energy that they had just recovered and unleashed an attack at the beast. The beast that had just arrived was knocked back into the spatial passage. After this attack, the high shamans became dispirited again. If that beast were to appear again, they would not be able to stop it. Luckily, the beast that was knocked back did not appear for a long time. Perhaps it thought that this universe was not suitable for it. Chapter 600. Gugu. Sometimes bad things would happen one after another. Not long after the exotic beast from the other world was sent back, Yang Tian looked at the passage in front of him and tried to think of a solution. Just as the great priests were sitting cross-legged in the void to recover their strength, a series of goo-goo sounds could be heard. Devouring insect, who had been injured by great priest empty god and had fallen into a short slumber, suddenly woke up and let out a series of strange cries. In addition to this powerful exotic beast, the great priests of the superstar divine temple were also facing another threat: the great families. These families had survived under the suppression of the superstar divine temple for a long time and had long been dissatisfied with the superstar divine temple. Wasn't this the perfect opportunity to erase the superstar divine temple from this universe? When Devouring Insect woke up, a dozen powerful auras appeared not far away. Yang Tian, there's nothing for you to do now. Leave this place first. Great Priest Taiyu opened his eyes and said indifferently after sensing the current situation. Yang Tian shook his head. If I leave, the Superstar Divine Temple will really be destroyed. Without the Superstar Divine Temple, this universe will become chaotic. A chaotic universe was what the great families and various forces wanted to see the most. There were countless families in the universe, but only a few dozen were famous. This was because they had been passed down for a long time and had a complete powerhouse cultivation system. Usually, these people kept a very low profile, but when it was time to make a move, one would discover that these families also had top-notch experts hidden among them. Great Priest Taiyu was shocked when he heard Yang Tian's words. No matter how one looked at it, Yang Tian wasn't a die-hard member of the Superstar Divine Temple. It would take at least a few years for this group of people to recover their previous strength, and that was under the condition that they weren't disturbed and had a large amount of energy to replenish. The great priests naturally didn't lack beast cores. If Yang Tian hadn't emptied the Architect Palace, they wouldn't have been lacking either. Perhaps these great priests didn't know what had happened in the Architect Palace. Even if they found out, they would probably think that it was Shi Chun and Yu Yu's group who had done it. In fact, after breaking into the Superstar Divine Temple, the group of people from the Eternal Temple had also entered the Architect Palace, only to find that it was already empty. They were definitely going to be Yang Tian's scapegoat. The crisis that the Superstar God Temple was currently facing was also the best opportunity for Yang Tian to show his muscles. He wanted the entire universe to witness his strength and pave the way for the rise of the humans on Earth. Have a good rest. I'll get rid of them. As soon as Yang Tian said that, High Priest Kaya took out a tube of red liquid and threw it to Yang Tian. He said, "These are primal cells. They can help you become a great star god." Yang Tian waved his hand and sent the red liquid into the spatial passage in the distance. He smiled and said, "No need." Yang Tian had his own way. If he had known that things would turn out like this, Yang Tian might have swallowed the remaining altered cell bodies before entering the Superstar Divinity Temple. In a short period of time, he could raise his strength to a level that surpassed that of a great star god. In that case, he would have a strength to stop Shichen Yu. However, all of this seemed to be destined. Yang Tian took off the blue armor on his body and released all of the remaining red cell bodies from his storage bracelet. Back then, when he swallowed these cells that contained powerful energy, Yang Tian took a risk. Fortunately, these cells did not have any side effects for him. In the eyes of the high priests, Yang Tian tore the thin clothes on his body and quickly turned into a huge green dragon. As soon as he opened his mouth, Yang Tian sucked all of the red cell bodies into his mouth. In just a few minutes, the energy waves emitted from Yang Tian's body rose from the Great Star Lord level to the Great Star God level, and then surpassed the Great Star God level. When the experts of the large family saw this, they could not help but be shocked. They were all glad that they had not made a move yet. With enough energy, Yang Tian could make his body bigger. He only stopped when he was 100 meters long. At this time, not far away, the devouring bug was swallowing the corpses of the surrounding cultivators. Even if they were dead, these corpses still contained powerful energy. After the devouring bug digested them, it would become even more powerful. Seeing Yang Tian transform into a dragon, the high priests were all shocked. Even if he reached the Great Star God level, A human could not possibly transform into an exotic beast, right? Unless Yang Tian's body cells were half human and half beast. Wouldn't it be a modified human? Under everyone's shocked expressions, Yang Tian rushed toward the huge devouring bug. Although the devouring bug was huge, its movements in the universe were also very agile. When it sensed that Yang Tian was rushing toward it, it quickly turned around and opened its mouth. This huge mouth was even bigger than the spatial tunnel. Now that he was close, Yang Tian could see that the huge mouth was full of spiral-shaped teeth. They moved in a regular pattern, like a grinding machine. Facing this huge mouth, Yang Tian did not hesitate at all. He rushed straight toward it. His speed was very fast, like a beam of light. The devouring bug's fleshy feelers that were sweeping toward Yang Tian missed. PFFF, Yang Tian rushed into the devouring bug's mouth. The moment the devouring bug closed its mouth, its teeth made contact with Yang Tian's protective energy and made a dull sound. After this sound, there was silence. There was no movement for a few minutes. It was as if Yang Tian had been digested by the devouring bug. Just as High Priest Tai Yu was getting more and more worried, there was a sudden loud bang. A huge hole appeared in the devouring bug's head, and Yang Tian's huge dragon body rushed out from it. This hole was slightly to the left compared to the one the High Priest of Space had made. This was where the devouring bug's weakness was. After Yang Tian rushed out of the devouring bug's body, the devouring bug's life force instantly disappeared. Yang Tian's dragon figure flashed, and he appeared in front of the little blue dragon. The little blue dragon had also transformed into a huge dragon. When he came out of the devouring bug's body, Yang Tian held in his mouth a round ball that was several meters in diameter and had a halo on its surface. This was the devouring bug's Niden, the Niden of a great astral beast. After arriving in front of the little blue dragon, Yang Tian spat out the Niden and gave it to the little blue dragon. The little blue dragon understood Yang Tian's intentions, and it naturally wouldn't be polite with Yang Tian. It opened its mouth and put the Niden into its mouth, stretched its neck, and swallowed it. Seeing this, Hong Yujio, High Priest Tai Yu, and the others finally understood why Yang Tian had undergone such a transformation. Clearly, the relationship between Yang Tian and the little blue dragon wasn't what they thought it was. After swallowing the devouring bug's Niden, powerful energy fluctuations suddenly erupted from the little blue dragon's body. It was beginning to advance in rank. Previously, the little blue dragon had absorbed the sealed energy of the teleportation array, and it had almost advanced to the great astral god realm. Now that it had the energy of this Niden, it could be said that the conditions were right. Soon, the color of the little blue dragon's body finally changed. The scales on its body turned into a golden color, making it appear even more dignified and noble. Seeing this, Yang Tian's eyes were filled with excitement as he stood guard on the side. He was filled with a sense of accomplishment. The little blue dragon that had advanced to the great astral god realm should be much stronger than human cultivators at the great astral god realm. Soon, the little blue dragon had proven its power. About half an hour later, the little azure dragon completed its advancement. It had evolved from an azure dragon into a golden dragon. The reason why it was so fast was because the little blue dragon was already prepared to advance in rank. It was just a little bit away. Within the dragon race, the golden dragon status should be the highest. Buzzing, suddenly, another muffled sound rang out. The exotic beast that the high priest had pushed back had appeared once again. The reason why it had come to this world was to serve as a foil to the little blue dragon's power. As soon as it came out from the entrance to the infinite space and looked around curiously, the little blue dragon descended from the sky and slapped its head with its claw. Although the claw didn't kill the giant beast, it did injure it quite badly. While its body was still tumbling in the infinite space, the little blue dragon opened its mouth and bit off its head. Its long dragon body quickly wrapped around the beast. Chapter 601. Judging from its aura, The little blue dragon's realm was not as high as that ultra beast. However, the little blue dragon was extremely ferocious. Its series of attacks had completely stunned the ultra beast. Boom! After biting the ultra beast's head and using its body to wrap around it, the little blue dragon breathed out a golden dragon flame from its mouth and instantly burned the ultra beast's head to ashes. At the same time, the ultra beast lost its life force. This powerful ultra beast from another world was killed by the little blue dragon just like that. Wasn't this too easy? Under everyone's shocked gazes, the little blue dragon let go of the headless ultra beast's body. Yang Tian suddenly felt that something was not right. Just as he was about to remind the little blue dragon, he saw that the ultra beast's body that was already dead suddenly moved. At the same time, its life force once again appeared within its body. The headless ultra beast had been resurrected once again. Then, it must have been pretending to be dead. The ultra beast that had been resurrected had instantly grown a new head, and it still had power that surpassed the great astral god realm. Seeing that the ultra beast that it had killed had come back to life, the little blue dragon was enraged. It let out a roar and charged forward once again. It already knew how powerful the little blue dragon was. When it saw the little blue dragon charging at it, it let out a buzzing sound. Following this sound, the space around it suddenly began to distort. There was no need to guess. This guy could not win and wanted to escape. Pung! The little blue dragon would not let it go. Before it could escape, its dragon tail slammed into its body with a loud bang. The little blue dragon had used all its strength in this attack. It slammed the ultra beast's body so hard that it quickly tumbled through space. The little blue dragon took the opportunity to charge forward. It opened its mouth and breathed out golden dragon flames, enveloping the ultra beast once again. At this time, the little blue dragon was somewhat regretful. After burning the ultra beast's head, it should not have let go, because it knew that Yang Tian would definitely want to study the ultra beast's body. Boom! It wasn't just the dragon flames. The little blue dragon also released a powerful golden electric current that struck the exotic beast. The dragon flames emitted by the little blue dragon didn't change much, but the electricity it emitted had leveled up. Dragon flame and electric current, this feeling. Yang Tian felt terrified just thinking about it. Pung, pung, pung. An explosive sound rang out as the exotic beast's body exploded into pieces under the attack. During this process, the surrounding space distorted again, causing the light to become blurry. Yang Tian's current realm had surpassed the great star god and was even higher than the little blue dragon's current realm. At the moment the exotic beast's body exploded, he saw a flash of white light fly out. Yang Tian extended a strand of dragon whisker from the side of his lips, piercing through the chaotic space and wrapping around this wisp of white light, pulling it back. This time, the exotic beast was finally dead. The white light that was pulled back by Yang Tian was actually a crystal that emitted a silvery white light. Its shape was irregular, and it was only the size of a human palm. However, this small crystal was emitting powerful energy waves. This energy caused the space around the crystal to become somewhat unstable. Observing this crystal, some memories appeared in Yang Tian's mind. These memories also came from Luoyang. After Yang Tian swallowed the cell body again, the memories that had become blurry in his mind reappeared. This silvery white crystal was called a life crystal in another world. This kind of energy was not only present in the bodies of ultra beasts, but also in the bodies of cultivators. It was similar to the inner cores of ultra beasts. The difference was that this kind of life crystal could not leave the body. Once it left the body, the life that produced it would die. This was also why it was called a life crystal. However, the ultra beasts of this world, like the little blue dragon, could have their inner cores leave the body for a short period of time. Life crystals contained powerful energy. Creatures of the same species could not consume the life crystals of other species. After consuming the life crystals of other species, the energy in the body could be strengthened. This was the same as cultivators consuming beast cores. At this time, Yang Tian did not notice that not far away. When High Priest Kaya saw Yang Tian wrap the life crystal with his dragon whiskers, a look of excitement appeared in his eyes. He had finally killed the devouring bugs and the ultra beast from the other world. Now, it was time to take care of those powerhouses from the large families. After killing them, this universe would be at peace. Yang Tian swept a glance around. His current realm had surpassed the great astral god realm. He could see extremely far away. He could see everything in the vast space around him. This was a godlike vision. Whether it was the cultivators who appeared directly in the surroundings or the peak powerhouses who were hiding in the distant space, they all appeared in Yang Tian's eyes. No matter who it was, Yang Tian released a powerful mind power. Countless formless golden dragons rushed out of his origin realm and swept over. Before these powerhouses could react, Yang Tian swept them over. Apart from the Temple of Eternal Life and the Super Astral God Temple, there were hundreds of powerhouses above the great Astral Lord realm in these families. If they joined forces, the power they formed would be even stronger than the Super Astral God Temple. Now that the Super Astral God Temple's strength had been greatly reduced, it was needless to say. Among these hundreds of people, there were 321 great astral lords and 57 great astral gods. Of course, some of them were cultivators from the two temples who had fled before. The others were originally members of some large families who held positions in the two temples. These people joined the temples for the sake of their family's interests. They would not risk their lives for the survival of the temples. These people were all horrified when they were swept over by Yang Tian. With Yang Tian's current strength, he could easily kill them. Even if Yang Tian did not do anything, the little blue dragon could easily kill them. Now, these people's lives were in his hands. Looking at the horrified expressions in these people's eyes, Yang Tian's eyes flashed with a cold light. Wait! Sensing Yang Tian's killing intent, an old man who was trapped by Yang Tian suddenly shouted. The one who spoke was Jishu Wudi. Yang Tian had seen this old man during the gambling battle in the 9 Barbarian Star Zone. Yang Tian did not have a good impression of this old man. Seeing the coldness in Yang Tian's eyes, Jishu Wudi hurriedly said, "We are willing to respect you." With that, Jishu Wudi prostrated himself in the void toward Yang Tian. This was a great etiquette in this universe. It meant incomparable respect and submission. It was the same as kneeling for humans on Earth. After Jishu Wudi prostrated himself, the others also prostrated themselves in front of Yang Tian after being stunned. The people of these families had always prioritized interests and were flexible. They knew that if they were killed by Yang Tian there, not only would they die, but their families would also be destroyed. Chapter 602. Many of the people who had crawled down were trembling. This was definitely not because they were excited, but because they were afraid. At this moment, Yang Tian only needed a thought to make the surrounding space collapse and annihilate all of these people. However, Yang Tian did not do so. This was because he saw Great Priest Tai Yu shaking his head at him. Yang Tian calmed down and used his mind power to speak to these people. Wei Shi, Tai Chu, and Hong Yu, destroy these 3 families. After Yang Tian finished speaking, he removed the spatial shackles around them. The people of these large families who had recovered their fighting strength naturally understood Yang Tian's meaning. After being stunned for a moment, they began to besiege the powerhouses of the 3 families that Yang Tian had named. These families did not have many powerhouses, so they were quickly killed after being besieged. Not only were the pillars of these 3 families killed, but their entire families would also be attacked by the other families and be wiped out from this universe. In the process, a large number of innocent people would die as a result. After experiencing so much, Yang Tian's heart was as firm as a rock. He knew that if he did not do this, the family alliance would collapse and give the Superstar Divine Temple a chance to breathe. In the future, this universe would belong to these families. At that time, Without the restraint of the superstar divine temple, these families would constantly fight, and more people would die. After the top powerhouses of the three families were killed, Yang Tian used his mind power to speak. Jishu Wudi, stay here. Everyone else, disperse. As soon as Yang Tian's voice fell, the people of these large families all breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly left. Looking at these people's fleeing figures, Yang Tian understood that they were only temporarily swallowing their anger. If Yang Tian became weak, these people would definitely stab him a few times and kill him quickly. Their ambitions would always exist. This was also a very normal thing. Even if all these clans were annihilated, it wouldn't be long before more clans would appear. Jishu Wudi, who was left behind, seemed a little uneasy. Yang Tian returned to his human form. Yang Tian had just killed the devouring insect and swept away the experts of the various clans. The energy in his body was almost depleted. However, after Yang Tian transformed into his human form and put on his armor, he discovered that his cultivation realm had actually stopped at the Great Star God realm. Not only that, but Yang Tian also obtained more of He Luoyang's memories after devouring the altered cell body. When most of the energy in Yang Tian's body dissipated, these memories did not disappear completely. Perhaps this was because Yang Tian had once again increased his cultivation. Although there weren't many memories, they gave Yang Tian great benefits. Of course, this was something that Yang Tian only realized after entering the other world. After putting on the armor, the bug brain pendant, and the storage bracelet, Yang Tian took out a box from the storage bracelet and said to Jishu Wudi, "This is the person your family has been looking for a long time." Jishu Lanlan was indeed very beautiful. Yang Tian did not even want to use words like corpse or thing to describe her. Jishu Wudi naturally understood what Yang Tian had given him. He was very excited. This was the wish of several generations of Jishu's family. If this box was really, Jishu's family would have to thank Yang Tian. "You can leave now. Don't get involved in this in the future." Yang Tian looked at Jishu Wudi's excited face and said lightly, "All right." Jishu Wudi agreed and put away the box. After bowing to Yang Tian, he left in a flash. After Jishu Wudi left, Grand Priest Kaya, who had recovered his strength, flew over. He kept staring at the life crystal in Yang Tian's hand. This life crystal was Yang Tian's treasure. Even if he did not use it to increase his cultivation realm, he could use it to power the newly built Mighty Sky battleship. One had to know that although the Mighty Sky battleship was powerful, it consumed a lot of energy. Without enough energy to power it, it was no different from a pile of rocks. If Yang Tian used more than half of the beast cores he had now, it would be enough to power the battleship. However, it was not worth it. He was going to leave these beast cores for the humans on Earth. Moreover, using so many beast cores to power the battleship was a very troublesome matter. Seeing Grand Priest Kaya's eyes, Yang Tian had a bad feeling. "Yang Tian, this." Grand Priest Kaya came in front of Yang Tian and pointed at the life crystal in Yang Tian's hand. He said somewhat embarrassedly, "We need this thing?" "No." Before Grand Priest Kaya could finish, Yang Tian raised his hand to stop him. He smiled and said, "If you want to recover, you can use beast cores. I have plenty of them here." Yang Tian thought that Grand Priest Kaya wanted to use this life crystal to restore their strength. It was no wonder that Yang Tian thought so. To the Grand Priests, this was the fastest way to restore their strength. "You misunderstand." As soon as Yang Tian finished speaking, Grand Priest Kaya said, "With this life crystal, we have a way to use a rune formation to seal this portal temporarily. This way, for a short period of time, life from the other world cannot enter this universe." After Grand Priest Kaya had finished speaking, Yang Tian finally understood. Doing so was indeed a good idea. Yang Tian thought about it and nodded. He said, "But I need He Luoyang Li's body. Without the life crystal, building the Mighty Sky battleship would require He Luoyang Li's body cells to provide energy." Grand Priest Kaya nodded without hesitation. "No problem." Of course, Yang Tian would not hand over the life crystal immediately. He had to let them design the rune formation first. Before the rune formation was completed, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon had to stay here. Especially the little blue dragon. With it around, exotic beasts of at least the same level as before could only be destroyed if they entered this universe. Yang Tian hoped that there would be more exotic beasts like that, so that he could obtain more life crystals. Of course, Yang Tian had to participate in the design of the rune formation. With the existence of a strange program, the rune formation could be designed more perfectly. 10 days later. Where is this? This is the exile planet that Yang Tian came from. Where is it? Weixideu roared at a red-haired subordinate in the cockpit as he looked at the unfamiliar star zone before him. Weixideu was Weixideu's cousin. A few days ago, after the Weixideu clan was annihilated, he and the remaining forces of the other two clans escaped. After meeting up, they formed a small fleet. Primordial Stone Star was also in the cockpit of this spaceship. It was impossible for all of these clans to be annihilated. When the clans were destroyed, some of the elites would be arranged to escape. That way, the clans could continue and even rise again in the near future. The coordinates must have been changed. It's not his fault, Primordial Stone Star said calmly when he saw Weixideu's crazed look. Primordial Stone Star was against Weixideu looking for Yang Tian's home planet because it was meaningless. However, Weixideu did not listen to his advice at all. In the end, this was what happened. Primordial Stone Star also knew how Weixideu's subordinate obtained Earth's coordinates. The person who was scolded by Weixideu was once a trusted subordinate of Archpriest Kong Shun's steward. Weixideu did not expect Yang Tian to have changed the coordinates long ago. If Yang Tian knew about this, he would definitely be glad. Otherwise, humans on Earth would face another catastrophe, because this group of people was not comparable to the Zichan Empire soldiers from before. After Primordial Stone Star finished speaking, Weixideu slowly calmed down and said helplessly, "Let's stick to the original plan. Let's go to the Ice region." The Ice region was an undeveloped and mysterious star zone that had not been included in the star map. It was only recorded in the star map. It was also the best place for the remaining forces of the clans to go. Primordial Stone Star looked at the starry sky outside and sighed. It was too difficult for them to rise again. Chapter 603. According to the Ketla star's time, 10 days later. Tens of thousands of meticulously carved bluestones covered in runes were placed at the entrance of the spatial passage by the great priests. The ceiling array glyphs were designed by a strange program. Otherwise, it would take dozens of times longer to complete according to the design of Great Priest Tai Yu and the others. After seeing Yang Tian's high attainments in runes, Great Priest Tai Yu felt that he was far inferior. This made Yang Tian blush with shame, because he didn't know much about runes, so he was completely relying on the strange program. It was worth mentioning that Yang Tian had obtained the position of Great Priest of the Superstar Divine Temple. Yang Tian accepted it without any hesitation. He deserved it. What surprised Yang Tian was that according to Yu Chun and Great Priest Tai Yu's calculations, Yang Tian would soon bring back the next goddess for the Superstar Divine Temple. Who was it? Even Yang Tian didn't know. This caused Yang Tian to have some malicious thoughts. In the future, if he were to randomly meet a woman in the universe and bring her back, the Superstar God Temple would worship her as a goddess. With Qin Fei as an example, Yang Tian started to feel a little repulsed by the position of Divine Lady in the temple. However, for countless years, the existence of the goddess had been one with the Superstar Divine Temple. Without the goddess, the Superstar Divine Temple wasn't complete. In Yang Tian's opinion, the Superstar Divine Temple was no longer mysterious because he had reached a certain height. However, the ordinary humans in this universe were still full of reverence for the temple. After setting up the ceiling array glyphs at the entrance, Yang Tian had 3 things to do. The first thing was to return to Earth. Although he couldn't bring Qin Fei back and make the elders happy, he still had to make a trip back. Calculating the time, it had been more than 10 years since he left Earth. Yang Tian had muddled along for so long and had become a great star god realm expert. Making a trip back could be considered a glorious return to his homeland. Under Yang Tian's insistence, the superstar god temple had decided to gradually cancel the exiled planets. At the right time, the humans on these planets could return to the universe. Of course, this would require the consent of the humans on the exiled planet. The second thing was to complete the construction of the new Wei-Kong warship. Yang Tian must enter the other world and find Qin Fei. The third thing was to bring the little blue dragon to the Dragon Starfield. Regardless of the outcome, he had to fulfill the little blue dragon's wish. If he thought too much, the effect of the sealing rune array would be affected. Yang Tian calmed himself down and began to adjust the position of every rock under the eyes of the great priests. After dozens of hours of calculation by a strange program, the position of the blue stone was finally adjusted. For the last step, Yang Tian took out the life crystal that the little blue dragon obtained after killing the otherworld creature from his storage bracelet and embedded it on the largest blue stone. As soon as the life crystal was embedded, the runes on this large blue stone lit up and projected a light blue beam toward the surrounding blue stones. After the other blue stones came into contact with the light beam, the runes on them also lit up. In a few seconds, all the blue stones with runes engraved on them lit up. These blue stones turned into luminous objects. Tens of thousands of blue stones were distributed over a very wide area. In fact, they covered the spatial tunnel. When all the blue stones lit up, countless light blue beams formed a spherical cage that completely covered the spatial tunnel. After reaching this step, Yang Tian and the great priests of the superstar god temple all breathed a sigh of relief. This was because before the sealing rune array was completed, especially after the tens of thousands of blue stones were set up, it would be troublesome if another otherworld came. Fortunately, such a thing did not happen. When the light net was formed, the space inside it became distorted, and the flow of time became hundreds of thousands of times slower. In other words, hundreds of thousands of years had passed on the outside, but only 1 year had passed on the inside of the net of light. If an otherworld creature came to this world from another world, under normal circumstances, it would take a second to break through this rune array. However, in this universe, hundreds of thousands of seconds had passed, which was about a few days. Apart from time, the space distortion also extended the distance by hundreds of thousands of times. Apart from making changes in space and time, Yang Tian also made the strange program set up an illusion. This was a rune energy that could increase the fear of creatures. These were just the defensive methods of the sealing rune array. Apart from defense, there were also offensive methods. The offensive method would only be activated after the otherworld creature passed through the defense. Once the offensive method was activated, the energy consumption of the life crystal would be very high. If the various offensive methods of the rune array could not kill the otherworld creature, then the sealing rune array would activate the teleportation. It would teleport the otherworld creature to the remote bug tribe star zone and leave the otherworld creature for the bugs to deal with. After the light net was formed, all of the blue stones that lit up gradually disappeared. What disappeared along with it was the space entrance. Of course, this did not mean that it had truly disappeared, but that it had been hidden. Now, even if a great astral god powerhouse were to come here, they would not be able to sense the existence of the entrance. The super astral god temple had returned to its original appearance and was floating not far away. From now on, the super astral god temple had another responsibility, which was to guard this passage. 2 days later, in a nameless star zone, on a habitable planet that had just been developed and had yet to be settled, a huge production base had been built. This star zone was bought by 2 sisters from an interstellar exploration company with a huge sum of money. The materials and technical workers needed to produce the spaceship and the family fortress had all been transferred and gathered here. The technical workers who came here had all signed a 10-year confidentiality agreement. After 10 years, they would receive a generous reward and choose to leave this place to live the rest of their lives happily. Of course, they could also choose to continue working for Azure Dragon Technology. Azure Dragon Technology was a newly established technology company. In the beginning, it produced the spaceship and the family fortress of the Azure Dragon family. In the later stages, it would produce storage tools and everything related to runes. After that, it would establish the Azure Dragon Bank. If it developed according to Yang Tian's plan, it would not be difficult for the humans of Earth to obtain the ruling rights of this universe. Of course, this would take a long time, and the process might not be smooth. Yang Tian's wish was the same as Qin Shi Huang of ancient China, which was to unify all of the units of time, words, measurements, and so on in this universe, and establish a great universe with the humans of Earth as the center. In a luxurious building in the huge base. Brother Yang, it's ready. The information has been collected. Hee. Now, as long as the Azure Dragon family is mentioned, those big companies will obediently hand over these things. Of course, to them, these are not the highest level secrets. Zhu Yang said as he placed a silver-white box on the table, opened the password lock, and opened the lid. Inside the box, there were dozens of black high-grade storage chips neatly arranged. After handing the chips over to Yang Tian, Zhu Yang City took out a thick proposal that was printed on special paper. This was the Azure Dragon plan that Zhu Yang had carefully compiled after investigating the development data of dozens of backward planets in the universe. In Yang Tian's plan, all the humans of Earth were members of the Azure Dragon family. In this room, other than Zhu Yang, there were also 7 Light Rain, 7 Color, Zhu Wei, and Soli. After Soli left the Superstar God Temple, she returned to Ketla planet and was summoned by Yang Tian. Yang Tian trusted Soli a lot. In the next 2 days, Yang Tian visited the construction process of the spaceship and the family fortress. Because the spaceship was extremely precise, all the construction process was designed by a strange program and executed by an intelligent control system. No humans were involved. But the family fortress was different. Because it was a place where humans lived, all the equipment and facilities needed to have experience data. Even with advanced intelligent programs and machines, hundreds of thousands of technicians were involved in the construction. Yang Tian had already seen the design. The completed family fortress was like a small planet. It usually maintained a round shape, but when necessary, it could transform into the shape of a fighter jet to perform high-speed and long-distance space flight. Because Yang Tian had the help of the strange program, this family fortress will be the most powerful family fortress in the history of the universe. After it was completed, it would undergo a second processing and add rune technology to give it a strong defensive ability. According to the calculations of the strange program, after the family fortress was completed, its defensive ability would be dozens of times stronger than the Superstar God Temple. Even if a great star god cultivator attacked it, it would be able to last for a long time and break through space to escape to a preset foreign star zone. It was worth mentioning that this foreign star zone included the Dragon Star Zone. Of course, in addition to strong defensive ability, it also had strong offensive ability. The rune attack it launched was equivalent to the full power attack of a great star god. Inside the family fortress, most of it was a residential area with all kinds of entertainment facilities. The circular shell was also a huge monitor, and the environment was an optimized simulation of Earth's environment. In addition to the living facilities, the family fortress also had a trial space created with runes, and there were thousands of teleportation array disks. Such a beautiful place, of course, was not something that every human on Earth could live in. The first batch of people to live in were Yang Tian's family and friends. This was necessary. Although Yang Tian was prepared to share such a fortress with the majority of the Earth Dragon, he also had his own selfish motives, didn't he? Yang Tian did not think of himself as a selfless saint. The second batch of people to come in were humans who had made outstanding contributions to the human world, regardless of which aspect they were in. Among this batch of people, it was very likely that they were scientists and martial artists who were guarding ordinary humans from the requirements for this batch of people. It could be seen that Yang Tian valued a person's character very much. The third batch of people were young people with potential top martial artists. As the future development continued, the number of people in the third batch would definitely increase. Yang Tian knew that his parents were not good at managing people, and at the same time, Yang Tian did not want them to work too hard. The management work would be handed over to Chu Yin, Guing, Soli, Zhu Wei, Zhu Yangshi, Grandpa Qin Jingyang, and the others. After leaving the production base, one of the three things could be considered completed. The next thing was to return to Earth. In the cabin of the Black Dragon spaceship, Yang Tian used the universe common language to give orders to the Black Dragon spaceship's AI piloting system. Activate the exploration navigation mode. With planet Kaitra as the base, the coordinates are ## at Yin. After receiving the order, the Black Dragon spaceship immediately set off and began a short-distance space jump flight. Although the coordinates have been confirmed, there were many unfamiliar star fields on the route. The data of the planets in these star fields had not been recorded in the star map, so the travel time could not be determined. It could be a day, a few months, or a few years. Yang Tian was already prepared for a long journey. In addition to Yang Tian, there were also Zhu Wei, Soli, and Zhu Yangshi in the Black Dragon spaceship's cockpit. Zhu Wei was originally a human from Earth. Although he no longer had any relatives or friends on Earth, and the dynasty he was loyal to had been buried in the long river of history, he, like Yang Tian, wanted to go back and take a look. Soli and Zhu Yangshi were the two people Yang Tian had entrusted with important tasks after leaving this universe. Of course, he had to let them know about the situation on Earth. The journey did not take long. It only took 5 days for the Black Dragon spaceship to enter the solar system. With the current technology of Earth, a spacecraft that entered the solar system and traveled slowly could still be observed in time. Soon, Yang Tian received some strange electronic signals. Some were asking questions, some were threatening. Yang Tianli ignored him and drove the spaceship to land in Hero City. For humans on Earth, this was a sensational event. It was as sensational as when the Zichan Empire's soldiers came to this world. If it was not for the fact that there was only one spaceship and Yang Tian had brought back a fleet, most of the people in Hero City would have evacuated. Even though there was only one spaceship, a large number of high-level martial artists had left Hero City immediately. Yang Tian had excluded such martial artists from the list of people to be groomed in the future. What made Yang Tian happy was that although a large number of high-level martial artists had left the city, there were still hundreds of martial artists with weapons and surrounded the Black Dragon spaceship. The Black Dragon spaceship stopped in the middle of a huge square. Yang Tian did not expect that there would be a statue of him in this square. After getting off the spaceship, Yang Tian glanced around. Among the large number of martial artists, he saw a few familiar figures. For example, Steward Wu Fong and Mark. Both of them were now level 9 martial artists with faint signs of a breakthrough. Many people were stunned when they saw that the person who got off the spaceship was Yang Tian. Who did not know Yang Tian, although he had left Earth for many years. Uncle Wu, Mark, don't you recognize me? Seeing the two stunned expressions, Yang Tian said with a smile. Chapter 604. It really was Yang Tian. Wu Fong and Mark finally heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that it wasn't an extraterrestrial that came to Earth. Everyone disperse. After confirming that it was Yang Tian, Wu Fong glanced around and said loudly to the martial artists. However, no one left. They just put away their weapons. The martial artists were very curious about Yang Tian because Yang Tian was a legend on Earth. They all wanted to pay their respects to Yang Tian. Seeing Wu Fong, Mark, and the others coming over, Yang Tian called Zhu Wei, Soli, and the others down from the Black Dragon spaceship. Yang Tian, you're finally back. Wu Fong came to Yang Tian and looked at Yang Tian's tall figure. He patted Yang Tian's arm and didn't know what to say. Yang Tian, where's Xiao Fei? Mark asked with a smile as he glanced at Zhu Wei, Soli, and Zhu Yang who came down from the spaceship. Yang Tian scratched his head awkwardly and said, Xiao Fei can't come back. She went to another world. It's not convenient to talk here. Let's go back and talk. Mark nodded. Yang Tian, you've been gone for 15 years. Earth has changed a lot. Wu Fang led the way in front and slowly described the changes on Earth to Yang Tian. Unknowingly, they had returned home. Many martial artists were curiously surrounding the Black Dragon spaceship. Some wanted to get close to the spaceship and touch it, but they were stopped by Belle, who Yang Tian had left behind to guard the spaceship. After entering a luxurious villa, Yang Tian introduced Zhu Wei, Soli, and Zhu Liang to Wu Fang and the others. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon had restrained their auras. However, the energy fluctuations from these three gave Wu Fang, Mark, and the others a strong sense of oppression. This made Wu Fang and Mark very surprised. At the same time, it made them look forward to it. This time, Yang Tian definitely wouldn't come back just to see his parents and leave. He definitely had something to do to change the actions of the humans on Earth, hearing the sound outside. Wang Hong, who stayed at home, came out. When she saw Yang Tian, she couldn't believe her eyes and was stunned. "Mom!" Yang Tian shouted excitedly. "It's little Tian." Only then did Wang Hong come to her senses, crying tears of joy. Yang Tian chuckled and quickly stepped forward to give his mother a hug. "Mom, I miss you so much," Yang Tian said excitedly after hugging his mother. "We miss you too." "Right, little Tian. Where's little Fei?" Wang Hong let go of Yang Tian and looked behind him. She didn't see Qin Fei, but the beautiful Yang Tian. She had a bad feeling and asked Yang Tian with a frown. "Mom, I'll talk to you later. By the way, where's Dad?" Yang Tian asked with a smile. Wang Hong didn't see Qin Fei and was a little unhappy. She coldly snorted and said, "Your dad is outside. He'll be back soon." After saying that, Wang Hong glanced at the little blue dragon that had climbed onto Yang Tian's head. Seeing that the little blue dragon had lost a lot of weight, she blamed Yang Tian and said, "Little Tian, look at Xiaolong. He's a lot thinner than before, and he's also a lot more yellow. Are you not good to Xiaolong?" "How could that be?" Yang Tian bitterly smiled and said, "Mom, Xiaolong has lost weight. It has nothing to do with me." The little blue dragon that was climbing on Yang Tian's head was very proud at this time, but its eyes revealed a wronged expression. Seeing Xiaolong's eyes, Wang Hong remembered that Qin Fei hadn't come back. She coldly snorted and turned to enter the house. Seeing that his mother was angry, Yang Tian felt very guilty. It was also his fault that he couldn't bring Qin Fei back. Yang Tian knew that his parents liked Qin Fei very much as their daughter-in-law. Another point was that Wang Hong didn't want Yang Tian to become a playboy and provoke other women. This was a precedent. Otherwise, why would Su Fangrong come uninvited? Yang Tian had long forgotten about Su Fangrong. Wu Fang looked at Yang Tian's bitter expression and couldn't help but laugh. He immediately called everyone into the living room. After everyone sat down in the spacious and luxurious living room, Yang Tian went upstairs and spent more than half an hour coaxing his mother into a better mood. She followed Yang Tian downstairs. While everyone was talking, Little Condor and the unicorn White Snow flew back. These two exotic beasts had now grown into level 9 exotic beasts. The exotic beasts around Hero City would be afraid when they saw them. When the two exotic beasts came back, there was a beautiful young woman sitting on White Snow's back. She was Su Fangrong. Su Fangrong was now a level 8 martial artist. She was even more beautiful and was comparable to Qin Fei. At this moment, she was wearing a set of purple armor with 2 short swords hanging from her waist. She looked extraordinarily heroic, and at the same time, there was a charming smell on her body. If she didn't claim to be Yang Tian's woman, the number of martial artists pursuing her could probably line up from Hero City to Tianxiong City on the other side of the earth. Wang Hong and Yang Lin couldn't do anything about Su Fangrong's existence. This girl was too stubborn. She insisted on waiting for Yang Tian to come back. "I'm back," Su Fangrong shouted as soon as she got off White Snow's back. After saying that, she tidied up the purple armor on her body. After the Zichin Empire's soldiers were annihilated, many armors were left behind. These armors were all low-grade armors in the universe, but to warriors, they were top-notch defensive equipment. Humans on Earth could use such equipment because of the hard work of scientists. They had spent several years deciphering the armor system. This fully demonstrated that humans on Earth were extremely intelligent and capable of learning. Su Serong felt strange when no one answered. She quickly walked into the room. Su Fongrong's eyes widened in surprise when she saw so many people in the room. Ahem! Fongrong, Yang Tian is back, Wang Hong said with mixed feelings. Su Fongrong had seen Yang Tian a long time ago. When Wang Hong's voice fell, she smiled happily with a shy expression on her face. She called out, "Big brother Yang," and sat beside Yang Tian, hugging Yang Tian's arm while she was at it. "Who are you?" Yang Tian was not used to this beautiful girl's enthusiasm. He immediately pulled his arm away and sat further away, afraid that others would misunderstand. "Brother Yang, don't you remember me? I'm Su Fongrong. You saved me and my sister. At that time, didn't I say that I wanted to be your wife, or even your lover?" Su Fongrong's eyes turned red as she pitifully looked at Yang Tian and reminded him. At this moment, everyone turned their heads away. When Su Fongrong said that, Yang Tian finally remembered the little girl. He did not expect that the little girl had grown into a beauty after more than 10 years. "But I already have a wife." Yang Tian smiled bitterly. Looking at Su Fongrong's pitiful look, Yang Tian could not reject her directly. Su Fongrong blinked her big eyes. "I don't care. I can be your lover. You promised me at the beginning. You're a hero. You can't go back on your words." But Yang Tian did not know what to say. Su Fongrong's tears flowed down. "Anyway, you can't go back on your words. If you don't want me, I won't marry anyone else." Looking at Su Fongrong's beautiful face, Yang Tian also had the desire to possess her as a normal man. However, when this thought appeared, he could not help but think of Qin Fei. Yang Tian was about to say something when he suddenly remembered. Didn't the Superstar Divine Temple ask him to find a goddess? Su Serong seemed to be suitable. Yang Tian thought that if Su Fongrong became the goddess of the Superstar Divine Temple, she might forget about him in the future. Yang Dao was not worried that the Superstar Divine Temple would treat Su Fongrong badly, because the current Superstar Divine Temple was different from before. Very quickly, Yang Tian made this decision. However, he still had to ask for Su Fongrong's opinion. Yang Tian would not force Su Fongrong to do something she did not want to do. Chapter 605. Yang Tian, how is Xiao Fei? Wu Fang shook his head and asked. Seeing Su Fongrong beside Yang Tian, and seeing Yang Tian's uncomfortable appearance. Speaking of this matter, Su Fongrong finally let go of Yang Tian's arm, stood up, apologized, and went upstairs alone. Yang Tian finally breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Xiao Fei was brought to launch an empire. You probably didn't expect that she's actually a princess. In these more than 10 years, he had experienced a lot of things, but there were very few things about Qin Fei." Yang Tian recounted in detail what happened after he met Qin Fei. The road to happiness is strewn with setbacks. After Yang Tian finished speaking, Wu Fang sighed and said. Yang Tian nodded. At this time, Mark said, "Yang, how long do you plan to stay this time?" Looking at the current Yang Tian, Mark felt that he was a stranger. He thought that he should have gone to the outside world to experience it. Mark couldn't sense Yang Tian's realm. However, he could judge Yang Tian's current realm from the friends Yang Tian brought back. In the past, Mark could fight with Yang Tian, but now the gap was too far. Yang Tian saw the expression in Mark's eyes and knew his current state of mind. He didn't know what to say and replied with a smile, "I'm not sure about the time, but I have to settle this matter properly." Xiao Tian. Just as Yang Tian finished speaking, a middle-aged man walked in. After seeing Yang Tian, he called out in surprise. This middle-aged man was Yang Tian's father, Yang Lin. When Wang Hong went upstairs, she called Yang Lin. Yang Lin, who was fishing in the sea outside Hero City, immediately rushed back. Nowadays, fishing was a very exciting thing because the size of the fish in the sea was very big. Catching a few hundred pounds of fish at once was considered small. Many mutated fish had delicious meat. Seeing that his father had returned, Yang Tian immediately stood up and gave his father a big hug. Seeing that Yang Tian had grown a lot taller, Yang Lin chuckled happily after separating from his son. What was worth mentioning was that Yang Lin was already a level 2 martialist. This caused Yang Tian to feel surprised. Although his parents had been strengthened, it was not easy to become a warrior. They needed to go through more difficult training than young people. Yang Tian also asked about Qin Fei. Yang Tian had no choice but to answer again. After that, Yang Tian introduced everyone once again. By the way, where are Uncle Qin and Annie Shui? Yang Tian did not see Qin Fei's adoptive parents. Wu Fong told Yang Tian that the two of them had left Earth through the transmission disk. This reminded Yang Tian of his grandfather, Qin Zhengyang. It had been more than 10 years. He wondered how they were doing on the Crimson Flame planet. Next, Yang Yu asked about his former teammates. They were Xiao Fei and the others. Maka was more familiar with these people. He told Yang Yu that Xiao Fei and the others had left Earth long ago. However, Zhou Hao was still there. Zhou Hao was now a level 8 martialist. Ever since the crystal tablet was created, the rate at which strong people were born on Earth increased a lot. Cultivating the battle skills on the crystal tablet, in addition to swallowing beast cores, increased the speed of cultivation by a lot. Many people chose to leave Earth after cultivating to level 9 martialist. They wanted to explore the outside world. Was the outside world so easy to explore? In the past 10 years, Yang Yu had not seen any other human from Earth other than Zhu Wei. This meant that these martialists who left Earth were still trapped in the Death Star field. Due to the special environment of the universe, the rise of some races was often due to the birth of a strong martialist. Then, under the protection of this martialist, more martialists were born in the race. The rise of Earth's humans had begun because of Yang Tian. He rested for a day. The next day, Yang Tian met with Zhou Hao. The two talked about their school days until Yang Tian left Earth. In the end, both of them got drunk. 3 days later, Yang Tian used Hero City's communication system to issue a call to the whole world. He summoned all the city lords and the rulers of the various safe zones for a meeting. The news of Yang Tian's return to Earth spread throughout the world on the same day. Naturally, some people were happy about Yang Tian's return, while others were worried. The ones who were happy were the martialists who cultivated alone, while the ones who were worried were the rulers of some cities. After Yang Tian left, the ruling class of Earth did not change much. It was still a few high-level martialists who controlled the safe zones. These people were very smart. They naturally knew that Yang Tian did not have good intentions when he summoned them. He wanted to remove their control over the safe zones. This was the first and most important step in Yang Tian's plan. He needed to have absolute control over Earth's humans. He had to admit that Earth's humans were unmatched when it came to fighting for power. If any of the rulers of these cities were placed in the Superstar Divinity Temple, it might not take long for them to climb to the position of Great Shaman. Yang Tian did not want such a situation to happen and affect the development of mankind. He needed a united nation. Therefore, those who disobeyed and refused to cooperate could only be killed. When the deadline was up, less than 1/3 of the hundreds of cities on Earth came to Hero City to participate in the meeting. In Zhuliang City's eyes, those city lords' heads must have been kicked by donkeys. This was a strange way of speaking that Zhuliang City and Yang Tian learned after a trip to Tianxiong City. In the meeting room, the city lords who came to participate in the meeting sat upright. Yang Tian was not there. He was accompanying his father, Yang Lin, mother, Wang Hong, and Su Fengrong to the beach to fish. Little Tian, is it appropriate for you to leave such an important matter to an outsider? Yang Lin asked Yang Tian after he tidied up his fishing equipment by the beach. Yang Tian was tidying up the grill. The little blue dragon was lying on a rock, staring at the grill without blinking. It had not eaten grilled meat for a long time. Yang Tian washed his hands and smiled. Zhuliang City is a trustworthy person. With Zhu Wei, Soli, Uncle Wu, and Mark helping him, this matter will be settled quickly. Yang Lin nodded and took a piece of fresh beast meat from his wife, Wang Hong. He hung it on an extra-large fish hook and threw a specially made fishing rod that was as thick as an arm. With a whoosh, the fish hook was thrown with great force. It fell into the sea about 100 meters away and sank. Yang Tian watched all this with curiosity. This was his first time fishing. Ever since the outbreak of the YS virus, this kind of entertainment could only be enjoyed by martial artists. When the fish hook entered the water, it probably had not even sunk to the bottom when there was a whoosh. The fishing line that was as thick as a finger was pulled taut, and the reel on the fishing rod began to spin rapidly. Yang Lin was already experienced. He raised the fishing rod and controlled the speed of the reel. He retracted and released the reel and began to compete with the big fish that had bitten the hook. Because there were too many fish, the line broke in the end. Now, when fishing by the beach, there was only one chance to pull a fish out of the sea after dozens of attempts. The weight of the fish could not exceed 150 pounds, or else the line would not be able to handle it. After a few attempts, the drooling little blue dragon could not take it anymore. It transformed into a 20-meter-long dragon and dove into the sea. A few minutes later, the little blue dragon emerged from the sea with a white-skinned fish that was several meters long in its claws. Poof! From 100 meters in the air, the little blue dragon threw the fish down. The white-skinned fish fell to its death. Seeing this, Yang Lin could not help but laugh. He gave the little blue dragon a thumbs up. The little blue dragon proudly flew a few rounds in the air before transforming back into a mini dragon and landing on a stone nearby. Wang Hong immediately called out to Su Fongrong and went forward to bring the fish over. This was a fish that weighed more than 400 pounds. Its meat was delicious, and it was very difficult to catch a fish like this. Su Fongrong was a high-level martial artist, and she easily brought the fish to Yang Tian. While Yang Tian and his family were enjoying their family fun, Zhuliang City had already taken out an electronic document for the city lords to put their fingerprints on. Chapter 606. Since they were already in Hero City, these city lords were already mentally prepared. They hesitated for a moment before pressing their fingerprints on the electronic documents. Next, it was time to receive the documents. The members of the youth gang immediately entered the cities ruled by these city lords and took over the management rights. It was worth mentioning that although more than 10 years had passed, the youth gang still worshipped Yang Tian. The members strictly obeyed the rules. It could be said that they were the most righteous organization in the world. After more than 10 years, a large number of high-level martial artists emerged from the youth gang. Usually, the members of the youth gang didn't have close contact with each other. Some even hid their identities. After Yang Tian returned, he gave an order, and all the members of the youth gang appeared. Even Zhou Hao was a member of the youth gang. Every city was like a small independent kingdom. If chaos broke out, the ones to suffer would be ordinary people. After this matter, Zhu Wei led a group of youth gang members and started to clean up the city lords who weren't present. This process wasn't difficult for Zhu Wei and the others. A star-level cultivator could kill a level 9 or a level 10 martial artist with a flick of his finger. In less than a week, all the cities on Earth no longer had city lords. The management rights were given to the Azure Dragon clan. The city lords who used to be tyrannical received the punishment they deserved. Their crimes were all recorded by the youth gang. After this matter was settled, Zhu Wei, Soli, and the little blue dragon started to clean up the exotic beasts on Earth under the arrangement of Zhuliang City. The powerful exotic beasts were directly killed, while the low-level exotic beasts were chased to desolate places. From now on, the exotic beasts on Earth would no longer threaten the safety of humans. Accompanied by the martial artists, ordinary people could walk out of the cities and see the outside world. After the cleanup was completed, all the famous scientists on Earth were gathered together. Zhuliang City started to teach these people the universal language. At the same time, the cities that didn't have schools started to build them. The funds were all provided by the Azure Dragon clan. The schools that already existed opened many new courses. Ever since Yang Tian returned, Earth was undergoing huge changes almost every day. The The ones who felt this change the most were the ordinary humans who had not been enhanced. In the past, they could only stay in the factories and plantations set up by the city lords. The remuneration they received was only enough for their families to survive. The children in their families could not go to school, and many of the children in their teens could not even read. And now, without the city lord, after they worked, they all received the remuneration they deserved, and their lives had obviously improved. At the same time, without the city lord, the warriors also lost their privileges. Regardless of whether they were in or out of the city, they would be severely punished for harming ordinary people. The security situation immediately improved. One had to know that in the past, there were some beautiful women in some cities who didn't dare to go out. The strict management made many martial artists who were used to running amok very uncomfortable. In the beginning, some martial artists did not take it seriously. After killing tens of thousands of such martial artists, no martial artist dared to run amok again. Half a month after Yang Tian returned to Earth, things were basically straightened out. He finally took out the data tower and let Earth appear in the star map. Inside the Black Dragon spaceship, Yang Tian looked at the star map again and discovered that Earth was extremely far away from the Death Star field. If a straight line was drawn between the Death Star field's Crimson Flame planet and Earth, the Superstar Divinity Temple would be in between the two. This was the magical part of the teleportation disk array. It could allow humans on Earth to instantly pass through the Superstar Divinity Temple and appear on the other side. So magical. Seeing the countless beautiful stars in the projected star map, Su Fongrong opened her eyes wide with amazement. Su Fongrong was wearing a blue dress and exquisite jewelry. It was obvious that she had put in a lot of effort to dress up. As the saying goes, a woman dresses up for the one who loves her. Su Fongrong hoped to display her beauty in front of Yang Tian so that Yang Tian could accept her. Yang Tian couldn't turn a blind eye to Su Fongrong's beauty. However, he understood that between him and Su Fongrong, at least for now, it was impossible. A normal man would have a desire to possess a beautiful woman. The stronger the man, the stronger this desire would be. Yang Tian didn't deny that he wanted to make Su Fongrong the goddess of the Superstar Divinity Temple. He still had some selfish motives. He couldn't have her, and he couldn't give her to others, at least not before Su Fongrong fell in love with someone else. At this time, only Yang Yu and Su Fongrong were in the cockpit. The little blue dragon was also very busy, helping the humans on Earth to clean up the exotic beasts in the deep sea. Yang Tian glanced at the star map, then stared at Su Fongrong's eyes and asked indifferently, "Fongrong, do you like the outside world?" Su Fongrong nodded seriously. Yang Tian said, "Now, there's an opportunity." Yang Tian told Su Fongrong about the goddess of the Superstar Divinity Temple. Su Fongrong didn't ask Yang Tian about the benefits of becoming the goddess of the Superstar Divinity Temple. Instead, she asked Yang Tian, "If I become the goddess, will I be able to see you often?" Su Fongrong heard Yang Tian say that he was the great priest of the Superstar Divinity Temple, which was why she asked this. Yang Tian shook his head. "I'm about to leave Earth, and even leave this universe to go to another world. I don't know what will happen after that." Su Fongrong thought for a while, then looked at Yang Tian. "Then, in the Superstar Divinity Temple, I can at least get news of you as soon as possible. I can even use the power of the temple to find you later." Yang Tian nodded. Su Fongrong said straightforwardly, "All right, I'm willing to become a goddess. But you have to promise that they won't treat me like how they treated Big Sister Qin Fei." Yang Tian nodded again. A month later, Yang Tian brought his parents, Wu Fong, Su Fongrong, 2 servants, Unicorn White Snow, and Little Condor to board the Black Dragon spaceship. After more than an hour of flight, the Black Dragon spaceship arrived outside the family fortress. Under the guidance of the AI system, the Black Dragon spaceship directly drove into the huge family fortress. Yang Tian's parents, Wu Fong, and the others were the first batch of people to enter the family fortress. After the family fortress was built, 7 light rain brought people to move the family fortress to a place not far from Earth. After staying in the fortress for a few days, Yang Tian sent Su Fongrong to the Superstar Divinity Temple. After the goddess enthronement ceremony, Yang Tian bade farewell to Su Fongrong, then took the little blue dragon and piloted the black dragon spaceship toward the Dragon Starfield. This was something that the little blue dragon had been looking forward to for a long time. Now that it was really going to the Dragon Starfield, the little blue dragon was a little uneasy. It did not know if it could find its parents. Chapter 607. High Priest Kaya had told Yang Tian the interstellar coordinates, and Yang Tian remembered them clearly. After entering the coordinates into the Black Dragon spaceship's AI system, it took more than 10 minutes of calculation before the AI system came up with the navigation route. From the time it took, Yang Tian knew that this trip would take a long time. Since most of the time was spent traveling outside the star map, the spaceship could only use short-distance space jumps to avoid the spaceship falling into the space turbulence caused by the black hole, or it could enter the space annihilation that occasionally occurred in the universe. Xiaolong, don't be nervous. Your home must be a beautiful place. Your parents must still be there. After the spaceship started moving, Yang Tian saw the little blue dragon's nervous expression and comforted him. The little blue dragon nodded. Although the little blue dragon was a golden dragon after transforming into a giant dragon, its body was still green and emitted a faint yellow glow when it was in its mini dragon form. No wonder Yang Tian's mother, Wang Hong, thought that Yang Tian had abused the little blue dragon. Being skinny and yellow, wasn't that a sign of a lack of nutrition? Waiting in the cockpit while the spaceship was traveling was very boring for Yang Tian and the little blue dragon. Luckily, Yang Tian had collected all kinds of good wine, food, movies, and TV series produced on Earth before he came out this time. Watching movies and TV series, eating snacks, and tasting good wine that had been stored in the cellar for decades, the man and the dragon lived quite comfortably. 52 days and 5 hours in Earth's time, the spaceship finally stopped. They had finally arrived at the location that Kaya had told Yang Tian about. In these dozens of days, the little blue dragon had been eating good food and drinking good wine every day. Its body seemed to have become much rounder. The Black Dragon spaceship had stopped in an open space. The light was dim, and there were no planets within a few light years of it. Not even meteorites could be seen. Was the Dragon's starfield hidden in such an empty starfield? After checking the scanning data of the spaceship's AI system for the surrounding space, Yang Tian frowned. Through the spaceship, Yang Tian did not feel any powerful presence. The surrounding space was empty, and the strange program in the insect brain did not detect any rune energy waves. Looking at the empty space outside, the little blue dragon's eyes dimmed. The little blue dragon was a little disappointed, because even with its sharp senses, it could not sense the presence of its own kind. Xiaolong, don't give up. Let's go out and take a look. Yang Tian saw the look in little azure dragon's eyes and comforted it before the ship's AI system opened the cabin door. The little blue dragon and man immediately. Once, the little blues transformed into a dragon's form. It's then opens dragon, little blue dragon to dragons, dragons. The little blue dragon wanted to use this method to remind it to come here. If there really was a hidden dragon starfield here, its own kind would definitely hear it. However, after a long time, the space was still empty and there was no reaction at all. At this moment, Yang Tian was wondering if Great Priest Kaya had marked the space incorrectly or if the dragon starfield that once existed here had moved away. Yang Tian was sure that when he entered the coordinates, he did not make a mistake. After a few cries, the little blue dragon's cries were filled with sadness and disappointment. Although the little blue dragon was an exotic beast, it had the intelligence of a human. Back on Earth, when it saw Yang Tian with his family, its homesickness grew even stronger. Xiaolong, why don't we wait here for a while? Perhaps a miracle will happen. Yang Tian went up to comfort the little blue dragon when he saw that it was in a bad mood. The little blue dragon nodded and turned back into its mini dragon form, landing on Yang Tian's shoulder. After returning to the spaceship, Yang Tian started the spaceship and started flying around this empty space. By doing this, Yang Tian hoped to find a flaw in this starry sky. What made Yang Tian feel strange was that after coming to this starfield, he realized that his intuition didn't seem to work. If it was before, even if the dragon starfield didn't exist here, his intuition would have vaguely told him the answer. Another problem was that this space was too clean, not even a speck of space dust could be found. Moreover, the orbits of the planets at the edge of this empty space didn't seem to conform to any rules. This was also the reason why Yang Tian decided to let the spaceship fly around the starfield. In order to make the little blue dragon not feel sad, Yang Tian told the little blue dragon about this. The little blue dragon's mood finally improved. The reason why it was so sad was actually because it was too anxious. That kind of feeling was like returning to his own home, but being rejected by his family. While the Black Dragon spaceship was flying, the strange program also showed a blue dragon-shaped projection floating beside Yang Tian. The strange program was constantly paying attention to whether there were any rune energy fluctuations or the existence of a rune array. To be able to hide an entire starfield, it could only be done by using a rune array. Time slowly passed, and the Black Dragon spaceship flew around this starfield over and over again. On Earth's time, when the 9th day passed, the strange program told Yang Tian that it had detected time rune energy. Although this time rune energy had only appeared for a moment and was very weak, the strange program still managed to obtain a lot of information. It told Yang Tian that there was most likely a space-time tunnel in this space. A space-time tunnel. When Yang Tian was still a middle school student, he had fantasized about using a space-time tunnel to go back to before the outbreak of the YS virus and think of a way to prevent humans from bringing the YS virus to Earth. However, he understood that this was just a fantasy and couldn't be realized. After time passed, the people and things that existed during that time would disappear along with time. At this time, Yang Tian heard the strange program mention the word space-time tunnel. He wasn't surprised because he knew that it actually existed. This also explained why the Dragon Starfield had disappeared. If the time of the entire starfield was projected to the time before the Dragon Starfield was created, no one outside would be able to sense its existence. After discovering the time, rune energy fluctuations, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon became happy. This was because they both knew that the Dragon Starfield really existed. For the next 10 days, Yang Tian still had the spaceship fly around this part of the starfield. During this process, the strange program discovered that the location of the time rune energy fluctuations was constantly changing, but the time of appearance was regular. Using Earth's time to calculate, the time rune energy would appear about once every 12 days. The time it would appear was about half a second. The place where the time rune energy fluctuations were emitted was very likely the entrance to the space-time tunnel of the Dragon Starfield. As long as they could enter, the Dragon Starfield would appear before their eyes. After 120 days and collecting enough information, the strange program finally deduced the various points where the time rune energy fluctuations were emitted. Because it had received this energy 10 times, the strange program could tell Yang Tian that it was the entrance. If they wanted to enter, they had to seize that short half a second. Another 12 days passed. I wonder how High Priest Kaya found the Dragon Starfield. Yang Tian thought as he stared unblinkingly at a point in front of him. Move! Suddenly, the strange program's voice rang in Yang Tian's mind. Yang Tian's figure moved, and he immediately brought the little blue dragon to the point in front of them. For a great astral god like Yang Tian, half a second was actually a very long time. When they arrived at the point calculated by the strange program, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon suddenly disappeared. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.